cooking with fire. Sweet.
All right, hey everyone for joining us. Thanks for joining us, I should say, on this Saturday afternoon. We are up and running, it looks like. All right, it is 2:10 p.m. and we're going to get things started here this afternoon. with our live coverage. Now we're getting this up and running well ahead of time before any severe weather really threatens most of our area. These storms are still well out to the west, out towards I-71 right now as of 2:10, but we wanted to get everything kind of up and running so we have plenty of time to get all our ducks in a row here this afternoon. All right. Yeah, looks like we're good to go. All right, so here's where we are at 2:10 this afternoon. Showers and thunderstorms have been lining up out to the west. There's been a few tornado warnings with some of this action over the last handful of hours out across the Mansfield area, and especially just south and west of Mansfield. Those tornado warnings have been discontinued, and we have several severe thunderstorm warnings now from Sandusky on southward towards Mansfield. And a little bit closer to home, things are pretty quiet. Now it's hot, it's humid. We had one shower and thunderstorm complex kind of hugging the Ashtabula-Trumbull line a little while ago. This has been cruising out towards Andover along Route 6, heading over into Crawford County, PA. But in our 5-county viewing area, things are pretty quiet as we speak. But it's not going to stay that way as we go through the rest of the afternoon. Of course, if you've been paying attention to the weather, you know that today holds an elevated severe weather risk for sure. And all the counties in red, this is a tornado watch, and this includes all of eastern Ohio and western PA as well. This watch runs until 9 o'clock this evening. We think the severe weather threat in our television viewing area will be over with well before 9 p.m., but the watch for all of northern Ohio, the Panhandle of West Virginia, and into western PA runs until 9 o'clock this evening. They'll start chopping away and discontinuing that watch piecemeal as we get into the early evening and the severe weather threat starts to wind down. We think for a lot of our area, it's going to look something like this. Let's bring up the severe weather graphic showing our timing, our general timing of things as we go through this afternoon. We're thinking this is going to be, for most of us, something like a 3 to 8 p.m. window, maybe 7, maybe at the latest 8, but it's something like 3 p.m. to very early evening, maybe 7 or 8 at the latest. In a lot of the area, especially our northern and western areas, it may be over with as early as 6 o'clock this evening. But I think the window will start to open by mid-afternoon as a lot of that activity starts to push in from the west. The risk category, there are 5 categories on our 1 to 5 severe weather scale. We like to talk about the numbers more than the terms because numbers are a little easier for most people to understand. A lot of times these terms can be kind of confusing. What's enhanced mean versus moderate? You know, a lot of people don't understand that. And to be honest, in the weather enterprise, sometimes we get those terms confused as well. So we like kind of that 1 to 5 scale. This level 3 risk is something we don't see around here all that often, a few times a year. On average, maybe 2, 3, 4 times a year. We've already had a couple of these this year. Now they've kind of underproduced for the risk level. We've been in this enhanced risk a couple of times late in the spring and into the summer where we didn't end up having a big severe weather day necessarily. But that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes these enhanced risks or higher are going to pan out and produce quite a bit of severe weather. And so all hazards on the table in this enhanced risk of severe weather this afternoon, including wind damage, large hail. And the hail component of this, something we don't see very often around here. You know, a lot of times when we have hail in the Mahoning and Shenango valleys, it's the little pea-sized stuff, maybe up to nickel size at times. But this set of ingredients we have overhead today is conducive to not just the small stuff, but maybe hailstones that'll be big enough to cause more problems that can really ding things and maybe crack windshields and that sort of thing. So what I mentioned this morning on social media is it's a good idea today, if you have a chance or if you have the opportunity, to put your car underneath a carport or in the garage. If you have that available to you, it's not a bad idea because it's one of those days where if your car gets dinged by some decent hailstones, you know, there could be some issues with it. So it may not be a bad idea to cover that car if you have that opportunity. Isolated tornado. I mentioned a tornado watch is in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. The biggest threat is not tornadoes. It's straight line wind damage from thunderstorms. But as you've heard me say when we cover severe weather a lot, wind, of course, is wind. And your siding, your roof, things around your yard, trees, they don't care if the wind, the 70-mile-per-hour wind came from a tornado or if it came from a thunderstorm. It's going to do about the same thing. So take all severe thunderstorm warnings seriously this afternoon. Even if we don't have any tornadoes, we could still have some high-end severe thunderstorm warnings. But when it comes to actual tornadoes, it is a possibility. It's a low-end threat, but it is a possibility, and it is a high enough threat that it required a tornado watch to be issued for all of northern Ohio and western PA. All right, so that's kind of the overview of things. Again, tornado watch is out until 9 o'clock this evening. And for those just hopping on the stream now, we just got this started a few minutes ago. I'm live in the studio this afternoon with Chris Serinelli, also in the Weather Center this afternoon, keeping an eye on things as well. We're going to team up this afternoon and keep you safe. We'll get through this. It's a little unusual to be talking about this level of a severe weather risk during August. This is a little more of a setup that's a little more typical of late spring, early summer, rather than kind of the second half of summer. Typically, we don't think as much about severe weather as we get into the latter stages of summer into the month of August. But yeah, this is kind of an unusual setup. A little bit closer to home, a severe thunderstorm warning was just issued for parts of Crawford County. This is north of Mercer County. This storm perked up as it crossed the state line over from Ashtabula County into Crawford County, PA. This has a considerable tag on it. See where it says considerable right there? You're going to see that maybe a handful of times this afternoon. The National Weather Service will put these tags on severe thunderstorm warnings if they really mean some business. The worst kind of severe thunderstorm warning is a destructive one. You'll see destructive there instead of considerable. Those we really need to treat seriously. A considerable severe thunderstorm warning means this storm is more than just kind of your typical heavy, gusty summertime storm. It means a little more business. And yeah, it looks like there's probably a hail core with this coming into Crawford County right now. To the east of that, out into kind of the very woody terrain and rural terrain of extreme northern Pennsylvania near the New York border, this one has a tornado possible tag on it. That warning in effect until 3 o'clock. But all this activity is to our north and to the northeast of our television viewing area. Of bigger concern to us in our television market is what's going on to the west with a line of severe thunderstorms coming across I-71 right now, and this line has several severe thunderstorm warnings along it. While we have time, let's go over some severe weather best practices this afternoon. If you're watching this stream, this is one of the best practices when it comes to being weather aware. We want you to have multiple ways of receiving warnings whenever severe weather threatens, including a NOAA weather radio. I understand this isn't a very common thing around here. It's much more common for households and businesses to have a NOAA weather radio in the southeastern U.S., think Mississippi, Alabama, places like that, and also across the plain states, Kansas, Oklahoma, northern Texas, places like that. But you can get a NOAA weather radio and have it in your home or business, and these are easy to program. They're relatively inexpensive, 20, 30 bucks. You can pick one up at most Walmarts. You can find them on Amazon and other places online. And this is, kind of like an indoor, kind of smoke detector for the weather. It's going to go off. It's not reliant upon cell signals. It's not reliant upon electricity even. It runs on batteries if your electricity goes out. And anytime the National Weather Service issues a warning instantaneously that NOAA weather radio is going to go off, it's going to be loud. You're not going to mistake it. And so it's a great way to get warned instantly, even if you have questionable cell service, even if your power is out and you can't watch TV, maybe if your cell service is wonky, you can't watch us online, that NOAA weather radio will really do you a lot of good. But if you do have cell service, of course, we recommend our app, the Storm Tracker 21 weather app. It is the best weather app for our area. It has just your basic forecasts on it, of course, hourly and daily, but it also has the interactive radar so you can keep tabs on activity. We're going to send you push alerts whenever things, conditions warrant for our area, whenever severe weather threatens. On your mobile device, make sure WEA, wireless emergency alerts, are activated, and live streams like this. What is not listed on, this list of best practices? Outdoor sirens, of course. Outdoor sirens serve a limited function in 2023. They are only designed to be heard outdoors, and they're pretty, outdated technology. They're basically World War II technology and only designed to be heard outdoors. Just because you can hear one indoors doesn't mean that's what it was designed to do. And, they're pretty unreliable, and they're oftentimes activated by local officials who maybe activate them sometimes when they shouldn't, or maybe don't activate them when they should. It just kind of depends on those individuals. And so you don't want to be relying on sirens as your primary way, certainly, of getting warning information. Just because you don't hear a siren, that doesn't mean things are okay. And just because you do hear a siren, that doesn't necessarily mean that a warning is in effect for your location. Sometimes sirens are set off when a warning is in effect for many other parts of the county and maybe not the one you're in. So we have lots of problems with sirens, that is for sure.
Eric,
Mentioned
if you
that
can
enhanced
hear me.
risk of severe weather, that's what we're in this afternoon. That's level 3. And as I mentioned, we're in this a few times per year. I'll step out of the way here and show you kind of what these risk categories mean. Now, it's much more common for us in eastern Ohio and western PA to be in a marginal risk or a slight risk, levels 1 and 2. That slight risk is something we're in on average 20 to 25 times per year. It's very rare for us to be in a level of risk above an enhanced risk. Moderate risk for eastern Ohio, western PA, that's something that, maybe once per year at most. And almost never are we in a high risk, a level 5 in our area. And actually, level 5 is pretty uncommon in the entire lower 48 states. You see it a few times a year in the tornado hotspots, especially the deep south and parts of the plain states, but almost never around here. So it gets our attention when we're in this level 3 risk for severe weather. It's something we don't typically go above that, and it's something we only typically see a few times a year. And again, it's pretty rare in August. All right, so for those just joining us, so we're hitting 2:20 p.m. and we just started this live stream maybe 10 minutes or so ago. 21 News Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here, and Chris Sarinelli is with us this afternoon as well. And Chris will be keeping an eye on potential power outages this afternoon and everything else that you need to know. What's that, Chris?
Can you hear me?
I didn't have my IFV in, that's fine.
Okay, there we go. Just wanted to make mention very quickly, Eric made such a great point about having multiple redundant ways to get warnings. In a situation like this, I've had people ask me already today, should I cancel plans? Eric, and you can, tell me what you think, but I don't think this is the kind of scenario where you should do that. But it is the kind of scenario, just as you suggested, where you should, if you have errands to run, if you have places to go this afternoon or outdoor plans, have the wireless emergency alerts enabled, have our app, those redundant ways to get warnings, just in case, you find yourself in a warned area. It's better to be prepared. But this by no means is a May 31st, 1985 event. This is not that.
That's right. Not every severe weather threat or outbreak is going to be May 31st, 85. That was a generational event, certainly. It's one that a lot of us around here remember with a lot of vivid detail. If you're a longtime resident of the Valley, of course, you no doubt remember May 31st, 1985. And one could make the argument that we're actually due, unfortunately, for kind of a generational outbreak, maybe of that magnitude. I doubt that's going to happen today, but it's been almost 40 years. And so one could argue that we are due for that. And yeah, Chris makes a good point. It's still summer, it's still August, pardon me. And it's a Saturday in the summertime. A lot of people have stuff to do this afternoon, outdoor weddings and all sorts of activities. And it's one of those things where we get asked a lot of questions. Hey, should I cancel? Should I move things? And what have you? And it's hard to provide those answers more than just a handful of hours ahead of time. Summertime storms tend to be random in nature sometimes, really hit or miss. Your neighborhood could be dry and one neighborhood over gets 2 inches of rain, those sorts of things. And so it's one of those things that we can't oftentimes give a very satisfying answer to a lot of people. Sometimes our answers frustrate people because we can't say, yes, it's gonna rain definitely at 2 p.m. on Saturday. You should definitely change your plans. They're looking for an answer like that, and sometimes it's hard to provide that more than a handful of hours ahead of time because this is difficult stuff in the summer with thunderstorms. In the winter with snowstorms, that's a little easier. A lot of times it's not quite as random. The snowstorms tend to be more of a large scale phenomena that we can definitely say, hey, 3 to 5 p.m., you don't want to be on the roads around that time, but summertime thunderstorms a little different. I've got my IFB in now, Chris, so I can definitely hear you. That would help. Sometimes, we forget about the small details when we get these things up and running. We do have a tornado warning that was just reissued. This same cell had a tornado warning on it earlier. This is in effect until 3 p.m. for places like Loudonville, Mansfield, Ontario. Now, this is still a couple of hours to our west, out towards I-71 in central Ohio, but we're going to keep a very close eye on how this tracks and whether this rotation keeps wanting to kind of perk up over the next couple of hours as it makes its trip eastward. All of this activity is moving east at about 40 miles per hour or so. So what I'll do is actually take off the warning information, and we'll do a little storm track here and give you a little breakdown of the timing. This is for this main kind of line that is on the radar right now. Now, we may see activity independent of this line kind of cropping up from time to time, but putting a track on this main line that is producing the warnings out to the west, and under the premise that this is moving at about 40 miles per hour. This puts it on track to begin impacting our viewing area as we go into the 3 o'clock hour. Canton, Stark County, as early as maybe 3:15 to 3:30, and then coming into the Warren area, Newton Falls, Howland, Champion, down towards Niles, Lordstown, places like that, maybe between 3:30 and 4. And then coming into kind of central Mahoning County, the Youngstown area, this would include the 224 corridor, Boardman, Poland, etc., as we get into the 4 o'clock hour. And then once we get closer to 5 o'clock, maybe it's a little bit farther to the south and east, closer to the state line, so East Liverpool area, down into southeastern Columbiana County, maybe closer to 5 o'clock. And as you head across the state line into Pennsylvania, this is probably more of a very late in the 4 o'clock hour, closer to 5 o'clock or so hour issue for a lot of Mercer County and a lot of Lawrence County as well. Now this is just for this main line that has the warnings on it currently. There's not much between us and that, but as this activity continues pushing out to the east, it's going to be possible that we'll see some random pop-up stuff. We even have a downpour over northern Trumbull County right now, but it's going to be possible that we'll see some activity independent of this main line that's a couple of hours to our west. So again, some approximate arrival times. I think we're going to start to see this impacting our area as we get into the 3 o'clock hour and 4 o'clock hour as well. And you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens if this main line comes across, and that's kind of the whole show for the day. That's going to be a possibility that this comes across, and by 5:30, maybe 6 at the latest, that is it. And the severe weather threat in our television viewing area will wind down. We can't make that call at this point, but it's going to be possible that if this just holds together and comes just shooting across and wipes out the instability in the atmosphere once it moves across, then we're in the all clear for the rest of the evening, and they'll start canceling the tornado watch a little bit early. Again, that's going to be a possibility, something that we can't make a call on just yet, but it's going to be possible that this main line, or this warned line out to our west, is going to be the main show for the entire day. That tornado warning is in effect until 3, and this circulation has been kind of rotating in and out. They had warnings on it earlier. They allowed those to be discontinued, and then it looks like the circulation perked back up. I feel for the National Weather Service office in Cleveland, because this is really far south in their area and really far from the radar. So we're going to bring up the wind data here, and you can see that, you know, this is really kind of messy. This is sampling the storm maybe 8,000 feet or higher up above the ground. And so it's hard to tell what's going on with the circulation closer to the ground when you are sampling the storm that high. This is so far from the radar site that that beam is hitting the storm way upstairs. And so kind of a tough thing to warn for when you are sampling a storm that high. But you know, this is in central Ohio, north of Columbus, south of Mansfield, and pretty far away from the radar source, which is up here near the Cleveland Hopkins Airport. And it's pretty far away also from the southwestern Ohio radar site, which is in Wilmington, Ohio, also near I-71 east of Dayton. So it's kind of in no man's land, but that's the circulation they've been watching. This even had a confirmed tornado on it a little earlier. Again, this is well out to our west. Let me bring up a couple of our cameras, and I'm going to first show camera 2 here. This is our Youngstown camera. Banner says Boardman up above my head, but this is our Youngstown camera. We're kind of looking north-northwest here across the area, and you know, this is kind of a stormy looking sky. It doesn't look particularly dark, right? But a lot of bubbling cumulus clouds, cauliflower kind of looking clouds at times today, indicative of an unstable atmosphere. It's warm, it's humid, and this field of cumulus clouds oftentimes is a precursor to storms getting going. Cumulus clouds turning into cumulonimbus clouds. So that's, you know, that's one thing you can tell from that vantage point in Youngstown. Our other live camera right now is down in Columbiana, on the traffic circle here. This is Park Avenue, and kind of a mixed sky here. We have some higher level clouds starting to filter in from some of the activity, some of the storm activity to our west, but then you have those poofy cumulus clouds. Nothing's getting real tall in the sky here locally. I don't think anything's threatening to all of a sudden turn into a thunderhead here from this vantage point in Columbiana. But we'll be keeping a very close eye on those cameras, certainly, as we go into the afternoon.
Eric, you were talking about the atmosphere being primed and a lot of bubbling going on in the sky. There are a couple factors here that we are dealing with too. You know, we've got the cold front that's going to be triggering most of this activity. We have also a lake breeze that's going to influence some of the development of this activity. And so there are a few factors at play here, and I think that's one of the things that's contributing to the tornado watch versus just a severe thunderstorm watch. We have a little bit more in the way of variables that could lead to that activity than we normally would, especially in an August severe weather setup.
Yeah, absolutely. And this activity that's been triggering for the last couple of hours east of Cleveland, across Lake Geauga, Ashtabula, now into Crawford County. This is lake breeze enhanced a little bit. At this time of the year, of course, the lake is pretty warm. It's about as warm as it gets, but there's still going to be a difference in the lake water temperature and the ambient air temperature. You get a little bit of a mini cold front or a lake breeze boundary sometimes that can spark this activity, and these little boundaries can spark activity, and then the cool outflow from that activity can act like mini cold fronts and spark more activity. So it can become a little bit chaotic keeping track of these things. Sometimes you have lake breezes, you have large scale features like big cold fronts that are hundreds of miles long, and then you have these little mesoscale features that are just a couple of miles long, these little mini cold fronts that can spark activity. So yeah, that's something we'll be watching all afternoon. And you'll notice the radar is showing some green here entering our area. This is the radar picking up on the advancing high-level cloudiness. There's no actual rain falling out of this in a lot of southwestern Trumbull County and western Mahoning County right now, but this is an anvil, a cirrus outflow, if you will, coming off the storms out to the west, and the radar is hitting that cloud deck that's advancing and spitting out some green here, but this is actually not wet weather. So that's something that you have to keep in mind when you look at this. I can actually try to filter some of that out a little bit, so it doesn't look quite as deceptive. Yeah, there's the actual storms and rain out to our west. So we have a tornado warning out here south of Cleveland near Mansfield, also a severe thunderstorm warning associated with some of this activity, and this has a tornado possible tag on it. In our television viewing area, again, it's the bottom of the hour, 2:30. If you're just joining us on the stream, we got this up and running nice and early this afternoon to give ourselves plenty of time to kind of get things in order and tell you about what's going on. This afternoon, we do think that this line of thunderstorms is likely to hold together as it comes eastward over the next couple of hours. It's moving east at about 40 miles per hour or so. And as it does so, as it comes eastward, it's going to be quite possible that we'll see some strong winds. Hail is a threat this afternoon, and isolated tornadoes, something that can't be ruled out. That's why a tornado watch is in effect for our viewing area this afternoon. Thanks to everyone for joining us, whether you're watching us on Facebook or on my YouTube channel or on the Storm Tracker 21 app, WFMJ.com/weather. We're live in many, many places this afternoon, keeping you up to date, and we appreciate everyone who's joining us, no matter where you're joining us from. We're doing our severe weather coverage a little bit different today in that you have me out at what we call the chroma key wall. This is the green wall that I stand in front of and do the weather. Chris does it a couple days a week as well out here at this magic green wall, and we're going to try to do our severe weather coverage out here as opposed to in the weather office, which if you watched our coverage before in the weather office, we got that background that doesn't look that great. So we wanted to make it a little bit prettier for you. So you have me standing out in front of the magic green wall showing you full screen what's going on this afternoon. We have a whole slew of severe thunderstorm warnings from Cleveland on south, and I'm expecting the National Weather Service office in Cleveland to start adding some counties to those warnings as this line continues pushing east. So Lake Geauga, Ashtabula, Portage, Summit, and Stark probably are next in terms of the lineup here for severe thunderstorm warnings. We can pretty much assume that every county is going to be under a warning at some point this afternoon as this line pushes out to the east. And again, the forward speed on this is generally about 40 miles per hour or so. Just keeping an eye on what the National Weather Service offices in Cleveland and Pittsburgh are talking about this afternoon. They're continuing that tornado warning for Ashland and Richland counties out in central Ohio. Okay.
Eric, we got a viewer photo in just now. You were talking about the radar picking up on the blow-off, some of the blow-off from these storms to the west. I'll try to get it into the system here, but it's a pretty gnarly-looking set of mammatus clouds, those pouch-looking clouds that are underneath the anvil of the approaching storms. The viewer sent them in from Vienna. So clearly looking off to the west at what is approaching, and again, we're starting to see the sky look a little bit turbulent out there.
Oh, interesting. Let's see if we can get that into the system. And whether we do or not, Chris, maybe we'll check out the view from our Niles camera, see if we can see that.
Sure. I
From
will
Niles.
spin that around for us here momentarily.
While Chris is doing that, let's recap for those just joining us. The kind of the big picture here, a tornado watch is in effect for all the counties in red. This includes just about all of eastern Ohio and the panhandle of West Virginia and all of western PA as well, except for a couple of counties near the West Virginia border. This tornado watch extends eastward into central PA up into parts of the southern tier of New York as well. This watch is in effect until 9 o'clock this evening. I would expect from west to east counties to be trimmed out of that watch prior to 9 p.m. We think in our TV viewing area, our kind of 5-county area, Mercer and Lawrence in western PA, Columbiana, Mahoning and Trumbull in eastern Ohio, we think the threat is probably over with by about 6 to 7. Maybe 6 o'clock or earlier in some of our northern and western areas, and maybe in our southern and eastern areas, it might be as late as 7 or so. But the watch itself covers a lot of real estate, so the reason why these watches a lot of times have an expiration time that seems kind of way too long, it's because a lot of times these watch boxes are pretty big. They cover a couple of states, and so the severe weather threat probably will exist until 9 o'clock or so out to our east across parts of central PA up into New York State, and so that's the reason why the entire watch expires at 9, but the Weather Service offices locally can start by piecemeal discontinuing that watch a little bit sooner than the original expiration time.
Eric, I've got that Niles camera pointed just about as far up as it will go and off to the northwest, and you can kind of see that that view we were talking about, the anvil starting to spread over us. You can see some of the Mamatus underneath it.
Can you activate Niles in either camera 1 or camera 2?
Sure, coming up on camera 2.
2, all right. All right, so there's the view in Niles. This is across from Eastwood Mall. This is 422. Our banner says Boardman, but this is in fact Niles. And yeah, kind of a turbulent looking sky. It's a little bit hard to see, but yeah, sometimes if you see these kind of pouchy clouds in advance of a storm or sometimes behind a storm, indicative of turbulence in the atmosphere, instability, a lot of churning in the atmosphere. We call them Mamatus clouds. And they're kind of cool to take pictures of. They're kind of photogenic clouds, especially at sunset. A lot of times a departing storm near sunset and a clearing sky behind that storm, the setting sun will illuminate those Mamatus clouds from underneath. Makes for really cool pictures. Sometimes we see that in the spring and summer in the evening a little bit closer to sunset. But at this time of day, we're not going to get a picture like that, but it's still pretty interesting to look at the instability present in the atmosphere just by looking at the clouds. Again, these are called Mamatus clouds, and this is the view up in Trumbull County in the Niles area. Eastwood Mall, of course, over here. So thanks to the viewer for sending that picture and giving us a heads up about that. We appreciate that. We were kind of commenting about the radar looking a little bit deceptive this afternoon because we have these kind of blow-off clouds, if you will, high blow-off clouds from our central Ohio convection pushing in, and it shows up as green on the radar, but for the most part, this is not actual precipitation. This is just a cloud deck that the radar is being tricked by a little bit, and it shows up as green, but this is that veil of high and mid-level clouds. And one thing that can happen, and one thing we'll have to keep an eye on over the next hour is you get a thick enough cloud deck, it may stabilize the atmosphere a little bit as these storms try to approach from the west. Remains to be seen if that'll be the case, but if our sunshine supply gets cut off a little bit and we see a thickening cloud deck an hour or two ahead of the storms, maybe that'll help to stabilize the atmosphere just a little bit and cut down on the potential severity of the storms as they push in. But other than the cloud factor, we've got a lot of things going for us today. We've got heat and humidity. The dew points are around 70 this afternoon. In fact, I'll kind of bring up the dew point map this afternoon. Yeah, it is soupy out there. Dew point at the Youngstown Warren Airport 68, Newcastle at 69. These dew points a little bit higher to our south and west, so really tropical stuff down towards I-70 from Columbus over to Cambridge and Zanesville. And so that's a big ingredient this afternoon. We got a lot of juice in the atmosphere. We got temperatures in the upper 70s and 80s. We got a lot of wind shear, a lot of wind energy aloft. Again, a little unusual for August. This is a jet stream pattern that's a little more typical of spring, early summer rather than late summer. So, we got some things going for us, but it'll be interesting to see if the advancing cloud deck does serve to stabilize things a little bit. Despite that advancing cloud deck, again, it's hot outside, and especially when you have dew points near 70, a temperature in the mid 80s is, it's uncomfortable out there. It feels more like Orlando or even Miami can feel when you have temperatures like this and dew points in the upper 60s to around 70 degrees. Looking at one of the things we can look at, get a little bit nerdy while we have a second here. This is a parameter we call the supercell parameter. It's basically a model product showing the potential for supercell formation, for storms capable of rotating, capable of producing hail, and that sort of thing. The parameters are not through the roof this afternoon, but they're high enough to certainly get our attention, up to a couple of units here on the supercell parameter over the next handful of hours. So that's, we as forecasters and meteorologists, we look at a lot of kind of nerdy stuff like this to kind of ascertain what the atmosphere is capable of, what the potential is.
There's a really impressive looking radar signature. I'm not sure how it's looking out there, but in southern Medina County, right near Lodi, storm is really trying to present pretty convincing hook echo there.
Let's bring up the radar. Yeah, a pair of tornado warnings now out the I-71 corridor. I'll actually take off the lightning data because there's just so much of it, it can kind of mask other things.
Right.
Yeah, a couple of pretty interesting looking cells there for sure. Bring up the Cleveland velocity data here, the wind velocity data off the Cleveland radar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you got one interesting spot right there, just south of Vermilion, and another out here. This is near, what is that, Belleville, just east of I-71. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if these rotation signatures really hold together coming east.
I'm going to jump on Storm Prediction Center quickly and see if they've got any thoughts. After they'll issue a watch, sometimes they'll do those follow-up mesoscale discussions, and I don't see any. But in the mesoscale discussion before they issued this watch, this tornado watch, they did kind of specify Northeast Ohio, Northwest Pennsylvania, and Western New York as the best environment for the supercells to rotate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure, as you made the point, these clouds that are blowing off, could possibly stabilize things. That's going to kind of be a wild card because I'm not sure that's something that SPC may have anticipated, but
right.
Could play a role.
And speaking of the tornado risk overall this afternoon, we put percentages on these things, and this is the product from the Storm Prediction Center issued at midday today, showing the risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any location in the kind of tan or brown area here, and this includes all of our viewing area. That's a 5% risk. That's not something we see very often around here, and that's a small number, right? 5%. But when you consider that the chance of a tornado on just an average summer day in our area is near 0%, this is many orders of magnitude higher than that. It's a 2% risk once you're kind of down towards I-70 and into the Pittsburgh area, and especially south of there. So a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any location on the map, that gets our attention. We've got a lot of wind shear, a lot of wind energy in the atmosphere today for these storms to play with. Weather Service mentioning they're still tracking a tornadic rotation east of Belleville, just north, east and north of Belleville, Butler, Ohio. This is in Richland County. So again, if you're watching this, chances are you're in the Mahoning Valley somewhere, Shenango Valley, Eastern Ohio, Western PA. If you're watching us from elsewhere across the region, we're going to focus more, of course, in this live stream on our television viewing area. We're going to zoom out occasionally. Most of the activity is still well to the west of our viewing area out here in central Ohio. But in our TV viewing area, things are still pretty quiet. We have an advancing cloud deck, and this green is mostly not rain. It is that advancing cloud deck being picked up on the radar. A couple of heavy thunderstorms to our north up in Crawford County. And in our TV viewing area, I think things are going to start to get a little bit busy as we get into the 3 and 4 o'clock hours as this line advances east. Pretty good chance that a lot of this activity will have severe thunderstorm warnings with it. They've allowed some of these northern warnings to expire, which is interesting. Some of these are below severe limits right now around the Cleveland area and heading out towards the airport and just south of Cleveland and some of the southern and western suburbs. Big noisy storms, but sub-severe, so they allowed those warnings to expire. We'll see if any new ones are issued with that segment of the line. Right now, the segments of the line that have the most warnings on it are a little bit to the south, down I-71, closer to Mansfield, and a tornado warning out until 3 p.m. this afternoon, kind of for that section down there. Look at all the lightning with that. We get asked a lot, what are these plus signs on the radar? What does that mean? That's lightning. We show different voltage lightning strikes on our radar display to kind of illustrate where the more dangerous lightning is. All lightning is dangerous, but the ones that have the plus signs, that means it has a positive voltage. Positive voltage strikes tend to hit more things. They tend to have a higher voltage, and so tend to be a little more dangerous. But keep in mind, of course, all lightning is dangerous. And when you see this many lightning icons on the radar, that's a sign of a pulsing up storm. A lot of times, research has shown that a storm that is seeing a dramatic increase in lightning in the short term oftentimes is one that is producing hail and circulation or tornadic activity. So we definitely pay attention when we see this much lightning in a short amount of time. The lightning strikes that are kind of grayed out, those are older strikes. The newest strikes on our radar display are brighter and whiter. The ones that are darker are a little bit older and not quite as recent. So yeah, a lot of lightning with that storm. That's a healthy segment of that storm. So a tornado warning is on it. There's a lot of lightning and thunder, and this has had a history of producing an actual tornado. There was a tornado on the ground a while ago, back in the 1 o'clock hour, out to the west. Right now, they do not have a confirmed tag on either of these warnings. These are radar indicated. So as of right now, it appears that this is not a confirmed tornado, even though there could be one on the ground, but nothing has been relayed to the Weather Service to confirm that at this point. So their warning products show radar indicated, whereas earlier, when this was a little bit off to the west, it showed confirmed. Again, another look outside. This is in Trumbull County. Turbulent skies here. My banner says Boardman, but we'll ignore that. This is Niles, of course. This is 422. Over here is Eastwood Mall, and we're kind of looking west here. And yeah, darkening skies. We've had some mammatus clouds with this stuff blowing in from the west. This is all kind of blow off, if you will, from the storms that are out in central Ohio right now. And so some interesting looking kind of turbulent skies. Mammatus clouds themselves are not dangerous. They're not funnel clouds or anything like that. They're interesting to look at, and they are indicative of an unstable atmosphere. Sometimes we'll see mammatus clouds in an anvil cloud, if you will, kind of a very high cloud blowing off from storms. We see that ahead of a storm line of storms. Sometimes we see it behind storms as they depart. Something we see a lot of times with summertime storms. I mentioned a couple of times that we're getting into the time of the year where this is a little unusual to be dealing with this magnitude of a severe weather threat. Here's a chart showing the number of days with thunderstorms in a given year on average. This is like a 30-year average. Of course, it peaks midsummer, June and July. Those tend to be our biggest months for lightning and thunderstorms and even a tornado threat. As we get into August, we tend to see a pretty steep decline in the number of thunderstorm days, and that really continues, of course, as we head into September. Our quietest time of the year, oftentimes, in terms of weather, is late August and September. That tends to be before kind of the winter jet stream starts to take over, but it's long after we see kind of the peak of our severe weather season in our region. And so as we get into this time of the year, just to say this is a little bit unusual to see this magnitude of a severe weather threat this deep into the season. It's a setup more reminiscent of May or June rather than the second half of August.
Kind of a little historical perspective, kind of piggybacking off of that, we talk about as long as conditions are right, we can get severe weather anywhere at any time. I mean, you think of Plainfield, Illinois at the end of August in 1990. Again, caveat emptor, certainly not advertising that on the table for us today, but it's an example of, it's one of those off times of year. We talk about April and May and June, and then again, perhaps in October and November. But this is one of those setups that just happens to have all the ingredients for the cake, so to speak.
Yes, indeed. And we got all the ingredients in place. And for our area, the question is, will we actually bake a cake, or will we just have the ingredients laid out on the table and they're just ingredients? That's always the big question whenever we have these kinds of setups. Right now, the cake is definitely being baked out across north central Ohio, especially closer to the Mansfield area and just south of Mansfield. A few tornado warnings are out. 3 different polygons, it looks like. And look at all that lightning and thunder. I'll get out of the way so you can see this. This is Loudonville. Up here is Ashland, Vermillion. This is Route 30. If you've taken 30 from Lisbon all the way west out to I-71, you go through Canton and go through the Worcester area, and this is kind of where this is. All these different shapes here, these are what we call polygons, and the National Weather Service issues warnings, whether they be severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, or flash flood warnings. They usually take on kind of this shape. They don't issue them for entire counties usually anymore, and haven't for about 15 years. That practice changed, I believe, in 2007. So these shapes are drawn to better hone in on where the threat actually is. So sometimes these shapes look kind of weird, long, hexagonal shapes sometimes. Sometimes they're more like rhombuses or other interesting shapes, or rectangles. But these are kind of skinny individual polygons. It looks like they're going to update this. They're going to continue the tornado warning out here. And again, I know for a lot of our viewers this afternoon, this is stuff that is not in our viewing area. And so you may be wondering, hey, why are we covering stuff out near Mansfield right now? Well, that's because we got the stream on nice and early to get our ducks in a row and make sure we're on when this stuff begins to impact our TV viewing area this afternoon. But we're still tracking some pretty hazardous weather off to the west, and there's a good chance at least some of this survives the trip all the way across and brings us severe weather as we get into the 3 and 4 o'clock hours this afternoon. Closer to home, we have one storm of interest, and this is getting set to depart Crawford County. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for the eastern part of Crawford County now. This has probably been producing some hail, and I'll actually bring up the hail tracks this afternoon, show you where we've had some bouts of hail. You can see kind of these streaks, these colors coming across. This is hail being picked up on the radar. There was some of this earlier over in Ashtabula County, and then coming across into parts of Crawford County. Erie County, PA has also had some hail this afternoon. And then in Ohio, we've also had some storms that have been producing some large hail in addition to the tornado threat out here across the northern and central part of the state. Look at all these individual swaths. That's where the hail has been tracking this afternoon. So that big lightning producing storm that has the tornado warning on it in central Ohio just south of Mansfield also has a pretty good hail core with it as well. All right, so we're coming up on the 3 o'clock hour here, top of the hour. For those just joining us, let's actually take off the warning information. We'll give you another storm track here. And what we think is becoming more and more likely is that this band of mostly warned storms rolls through, and that may be kind of the main show for this afternoon. There might be some stuff beyond that that is a little more disorganized, but I think as this rolls across, this is going to serve to stabilize the atmosphere some. It may be a rough go of it to get to that eventual outcome, but as it moves through, this will cool off the atmosphere. It may produce some wind and some hail and even a tornado threat, but after that, the show may be about over. So let's actually track this and show you kind of the leading edge. This is moving east at about 40 miles per hour. And so here's some approximate clock times. And yeah, you have to always keep in mind these are approximate times. And we can't list every city in every county, but you can kind of do a little deducing here, a little extrapolation as to what to expect. Akron at 3:15 would put it on track to then push more into our viewing area. Let's actually do this again so we get a few more cities that are actually in our viewing area. Let's make this a little more useful. Sometimes it's pretty random what cities it chooses to display. All right, so let's try that again. Something like this. Yeah, that's a little better. All right, so again, Akron here a little after the top of the hour. The Canton area during the 3 o'clock hour as well. And in the greater Youngstown area, we're probably looking a little bit closer to 4 o'clock for this main line. There might be something popping up before then, but this main line may be closer to 4 o'clock. Cross the state line then as we get deeper into the 4 o'clock, and then down towards the Ohio River, deep into the 4 o'clock hour, maybe into the 5 o'clock hour. And at that point, once we get towards 5 o'clock or so, and as this clears our eastern and southern areas, we're going to have to see what happens. That may be it as far as a severe weather risk this afternoon. That remains to be seen. We can't make that call just yet. But on its current pace and trajectory, this is going to impact our area, certainly in the 3 and 4 o'clock hours, and maybe for some of us into the 5 o'clock hour as well. Just to give you a little bit of a sense of the timing. Just looking at, I got a good picture there from Derek in near Eastwood Mall. This was about 10 minutes ago of very cool looking mammatus clouds. Thank you to Derek for sending me that picture. If you want to send us any weather pics this afternoon, weather pics, PICS, at WFMJ.com. You can also submit pictures directly on the Storm Tracker 21 app. You can take them with your camera on your phone and then go to the app, go to the Storm Tracker 21 app and send it right there. That's a really easy way to do it. And of course, you can tag us on social media as well. A lot of times in these severe weather, in these streaming situations, we can't in real time look at all the stuff that's being sent to us and look at all the comments because it's just a little bit too much while we're trying to be live on the air. But we certainly check it all out when we can, and a lot of times that is a little bit afterwards, but sometimes we do get some time. It looks like we're actually starting to see some actually legitimate rain trying to pop up here in Mahoning County. One thunder shower right now around Austintown, heading down towards Boardman, coming into the Youngstown area. Chris, can we bring up the Boardman camera on either 1 or 2?
Sure, coming up on camera 1 right now, and I'll back it out for us here momentarily.
So we're going to look at basically 224 and Market Street here in the Boardman area. From the radar, it looks like we're trying to get a downpour. Nothing severe, and it looks like it's dry right here, right now. But just a moment ago, I did see we had a little lightning trying to come out of this in central Mahoning County.
Yeah, we had a little something pop up over, pretty much right over Boardman, north and west into the Austintown area there, kind of up toward the 76 and 80 interchange too.
Mm-hmm. There it is right there.
Yep.
A couple lightning strikes with that, a downpour. This is Austintown, and then heading down 46 towards Canfield. It looks like this is mostly just west of Boardman right now. But yeah, Route 11, Route 46 from Canfield up to Austintown getting a downpour with some lightning as we speak. This is pretty isolated though. That's kind of the only game in town in our viewing area right now. Now up in northwestern Trumbull, we'll keep an eye on what's going on up here in Geauga County. This is a heavy downpour with a lot of lightning and thunder, and with these high reflectivity values, I bet there's some hail in this as well. Near Newberry, Burton, places like that. So this is beginning to threaten northwestern Trumbull County. Up near Bloomfield, Mesopotamia. Put a little 15-minute loop on this. Looks like it's just going to graze northwestern Trumbull, just barely. This is mostly over in Geauga County right now, and might just graze extreme northwestern Trumbull. This is more destined up into parts of Ashtabula County and around wine country, up near Geneva and places like that. On its current path to the north and east like that. But yeah, I bet there's some hail in there around Burton and Newberry. That's just to our north and west.
I think you may, Eric, have been onto something with the atmosphere becoming a little bit less ripe. I mean, looking at the activity from really Cleveland down through Akron, a lot less impressive than it was just an hour ago.
Yeah, and there's no current warnings on a lot of this northern activity, right?
Correct. As of right now, the only severe thunderstorm warning is for Ashland and Richland, and the tornado warning within that.
Yeah. So all this activity that's up here, again, Cleveland's right here, Euclid, Mentor, along the lakeshore, Geneva on the lake, places like that. This is all sub-severe right now. Again, there's probably a little hail with this up in Geauga County, but this northern area, pretty sub-severe right now, and not as impressive as it was earlier. The severe weather is a little more confined on the southern flank of this, which says to me if this continues to be the trend for the next hour or so, we may be a little bit more concerned about our central and southern viewing area as opposed to our northern viewing area. So the Route 30 corridor and maybe Route 224 and south. That may be something we'll have to keep an eye on for the next hour or two, is whether it's more of a southern viewing area problem because our northern areas look pretty sub-severe right now. Yeah, a couple of tornado warnings still out. This is central Ohio. tornado warnings out until 3 and 3:15 for a couple of these polygons. This is well north of Columbus and well south of Cleveland. If you've ever taken that trip along, that seemingly interminable trip from along I-71 from Cleveland south towards Columbus, this is just east of there. And Worcester's over here. There's Glenmont and over towards Fredericksburg. And this has a tornado warning still on it. This also is a hail-producing storm. And no doubt there's some pretty strong winds involved in this as well, along with a vivid lightning show. And, you know, Chris, I was mentioning with Jimmy earlier, Jimmy Wendelek, he was still here when I came in this afternoon. I went home last night after the 11 o'clock news in some of the worst weather, non-snow, that I've driven in. We had some somewhat surprising downpours last evening. The atmosphere kind of overproduced for a time last evening, and the trip home last evening after the 11, the lightning was tremendous and the rain was blinding. And I was afraid of hydroplaning basically the entire way. It was a little bit like driving in snow. It was so bad. So the atmosphere is ripe for this kind of thing. It was that way last night. It's still that way today. It's very juicy. Even if you don't have a lot of wind, and there wasn't a lot of wind last night, you don't need the wind to have a pretty tremendous thunderstorm, and that's going to be possible this afternoon. It's possible. One of the things on the table is we have sub-severe winds. We don't have any tornadic activity, but we have some tremendous downpours and a lot of lightning and thunder, and some a real bonanza in terms of the lightning. And we're seeing that right now out here. There's a tornado threat with this cell in central Ohio, but you can see this is also a tremendous lightning producer as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things with the atmosphere overproducing, the amount of moisture that's available, in the discussions with the National Weather Service over the last couple of days, they've talked about the precipitable water values and the volume of available moisture between what fell last night and what these storms are capable of producing today. I believe they came out earlier this afternoon with, I believe, an aerial flood watch, at least for parts of northern Ohio. So that, you know, certainly we're concerned about the severe weather potential, but there is, you know, also the chance that some of the more flood-prone areas, if they get, you know, unlucky enough, could contend with some issues from the heavy rain.
Yeah, there's that flood watch product that they actually just updated. That's why the counties are flashing right now. In our television viewing area, that flood watch was issued for Columbiana County and Lawrence County on south. The Cleveland office opted not to issue a flood watch for their counties. But region-wide, heavy downpours and maybe some small stream flooding, urban flooding, that kind of thing, will be a possibility with any of this activity coming across. But technically, the flood watch itself in our viewing area is basically Columbiana and Lawrence counties on south into greater Pittsburgh. Just wanted to bring up real quickly the Cleveland velocity data with our warned storms out here. We're getting a little bit closer to the radar site and therefore sampling the storm a little bit lower in the storm. And yeah, there's a pretty good couplet right there. This is probably still, in fact, I can probably look to see. I'm just curious how high up we're sampling that storm. Yeah, we're still at 4,500, 5,000 feet above the deck with the radar beam here. So this is showing the mid-level rotation, but this strong of a mid-level rotation almost certainly is translating pretty low to the ground. Maybe not all the way to the ground, but in fact, actually though, they did put an observe tag on this particular warning. So there may very well be a tornado on the ground here south of Loudonville. Also an observe tag off to the east, closer to the Nashville area. This is 514, Route 39. And Betsy up at WKYC, our sister station in Cleveland, was asking about Holmes County, I believe. Yeah, so they issued a warning, yeah, that does include Holmes County. So let me zoom out on our radar here. This is the new polygon they just issued, and so this is west of New Philly and Dover along I-77 out here in what we call Amish country. Beautiful area, a lot of great shopping out here, a lot of great food as well. And tornado warning now out until 3:45, including parts of Holmes County. I know a lot of people have taken that trip out into east central Ohio and done a little day trip out here to maybe taste some wine, do some shopping, and check out all the great stuff that they have to offer out here. Walnut Creek, Sugar Creek, places like that. And so a lot of that area now under a tornado warning until 3:45 this afternoon.
Did a loop on the CC of that storm over the last hour or so, and back toward the Belleville area. We were watching it through there. You know, there may have been a a few CC drops on that. So be interesting to see if there are any damage reports that follow that. I know in Hardin County, closer to Columbus, some damage photos coming out of that area as well. So wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing from that storm.
And what Chris is referring to here, the CC product, is the correlation coefficient product. Basically, this is a way for us to see what the radar beam is hitting. As that radar beam leaves the site and begins encountering things, whether they be raindrops or snowflakes or anything else, it returns a signal. And when you see kind of a noisy signal like this, when we use this product in severe weather situations, a noisy signal like this is sometimes indicative of the radar beam hitting objects that are different sizes. Not just raindrops, but stuff that is different sizes. And that could be tree limbs, could be plywood, could be all sorts of debris. And in the winter, we oftentimes use this to differentiate between precipitation types. Sometimes we can tell where the rain-snow line is a little bit easier by keeping track of this particular product. But yeah, this correlation coefficient, we just got a fresh scan there, so we'll do a loop on this. Yeah, it's a little bit noisy. It's a little hard to tell because, again, we're sampling this pretty high up in the storm. But one of the reasons why the Weather Service may be continuing to pull triggers on tornado warnings here, not only do they have the observe tag on these warnings indicating that perhaps there is a tornado on the ground, but keeping an eye on this product here, there are signals that maybe there's some debris being lofted. Yeah.
Certainly not a radar scan we like to see.
No, not at all.
Pretty troubling thing when you see those those blues popping up on the CC scan. That's not a good thing. But
yeah, and still a pretty good hail core with this storm as well coming eastward. This is going to start to approach more populated areas closer to the I-77 corridor here before too much longer. But most of this activity that we're showing you right now is still west of I-77. Out in east central Ohio. We'll zoom back out and show you the large picture here and actually zoom all the way out and put a loop on this. All right, so here's our radar loop showing the progress of things. This is the most severe section of the storm or the line right now. This is bearing down on Dover, New Philly here before too much longer. A lot of the stuff to the north of there, though, a lot of lightning, but probably mostly sub-severe. As you head up towards Akron and closer to the Cleveland area, a little perk up of the lightning, but over Lake Erie right now, and that activity will continue pushing to the north and to the east. We have one lone thunderstorm that has developed over Mahoning County right now, and one lone cell closer to I-70, well to our south, impacting areas closer to Wheeling here before too much longer. But it's kind of the southern area that we're most concerned about, and so therefore it may end up being that this is mostly kind of a Route 30 corridor special, if you will, over the next couple of hours with less severe weather to the north. Don't say that with a lot of confidence at this point, but it's going to be possible that ends up being kind of the solution here, or the outcome is that this is mostly a southern viewing area thing in terms of the highest severe weather threat. Going back to Mahoning County and showing you this kind of lone wolf downpour, it has meandered to the east and is now impacting McDonald, still parts of the Austintown area, and then heading across closer to Youngstown and up towards Liberty. And so we're getting some hard downpours here. This, of course, the Madison Avenue extension, or expressway, I should say. Up here is Belmont Avenue, the 7-Eleven connector, maybe even a little hail, or at least some hard downpours once you get up 422, a little bit closer to the I-80 corridor, closer to the Girard area. We're seeing some deep reds and purples up here, indicating maybe some really hard downpours. Here's Salt Springs Road right here. This, of course, is Mahoning Avenue. And downtown Youngstown, I don't know if back in the weather office, Chris, can you hear the rain up on the roof? Is it raining that hard just yet?
Not yet.
Right.
Normally it doesn't take much for us to hear kind of the pitter-patter over here, but as I'm going to pop up on camera 2, I'm going to pop up downtown Youngstown's camera. And actually the camera technically is on the south side of town, but yeah, you can clearly see looking off to the north there, the rain shaft there and the low cloud base, and you can see where the activity is. Hope people's windows are down on the north side of town.
Yes, absolutely. And the timing of this is ending up being about what we expected. We told you a general window today of about 3 o'clock to 6, 7, or 8 at the latest, but probably mostly 3 to 6. Somewhere in that window, and now it's 3:08, and we're starting to see some activity in our area. Chris is going to pan around here and look more due west and show the threatening skies here. Doesn't look like the camera's moving much, so I don't think we're looking at much wind here. But a pretty good downpour and some thunder and lightning, certainly. with this. Again, this is kind of a lone wolf thing in Mahoning County. We'll keep an eye on if it perks up at all as it continues kind of drifting to the north and to the east.
Going to look back in on Boardman where we saw that shower and storm move through. Now, skies are trying to brighten a little bit, looking west down 224. But still, you know, if you have things going on in the Boardman area, it's a busy retail area. Again, you know, a lot of folks going to be spending time in that part of the valley today. You know, be prepared to use the windshield wipers because, you know, we had that lone wolf, as Eric mentioned, but there's still more wet weather to come, certainly.
Yeah, certainly we're not out of the woods just yet. So just because you had this downpour in Boardman and it's kind of winding down, don't think that that's it for the day, certainly. The threat is still going to be there for at least another couple of hours. But yeah, windshield wipers are on and we have a few raindrops on the lens here. This camera, you can easily see it if you've ever, most of us have, of course, been along 224 and Market Street in the Boardman area. And you can see this camera up on the billboard near Walgreens. Right near the intersection of 224 and Market Street. It's always an interesting vantage point. This is one of our busier intersections across our area, certainly, and it's always interesting to see the traffic on a Friday, or especially as we get a little bit closer to the holidays. For those just joining us, we went over this a little earlier, but just a reminder of ways to get warning information this afternoon. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings just yet. We may very well, over the next couple of hours, have a handful of severe thunderstorm warnings, and it's even possible still that we have a tornado warning before the afternoon is through. We want you to have multiple ways of getting alerted. If you're watching this live stream right now, this is one of the best ways to get weather information and be in the know. One thing that's not listed here, help us out by letting friends and family know about what's going on. If you're watching this stream, especially well in advance of the thunderstorms pushing in, chances are you're kind of you might be a weather nerd, or you're at least really interested in staying up to date on what's going on with the weather. You probably know a lot of people who aren't like you and maybe aren't paying much attention to the weather at all. Maybe they're playing golf right now. Maybe they're having a yard sale or something like that and kind of oblivious to the fact that we have a pretty heightened storm threat this afternoon. Send them a text, send them a message. Help us to get the word out. But other ways to get warned when it comes to severe weather, NOAA weather radios. You can pick these up at many retail locations, including Walmart, or even Amazon, of course, has these. It's a great way. It's like an indoor fire alarm or a smoke detector, I should say, for severe weather. It's going to go off instantly whenever something is issued. It's not dependent on a cell signal. It's not even dependent on electricity because it can run via battery backup. And so it's very, very reliable. The Storm Tracker 21 app on your mobile device, whether you use an Android device or an Apple device, whether you have an iPad or a phone, it's a great app that has just your basic forecasts on it, but all of our videos that we do are on there. Live streams like this you can watch on the app. You could submit weather pictures to us via that app. And you can, of course, get the latest hourly forecasts, and also on the interactive radar keep tabs of the latest on the radar. Wireless emergency alerts, go into the settings on your mobile device. WEA should be there. By default, on most mobile devices, this is activated. The U.S. government will sometimes activate WEA in weather emergencies or other different types of emergencies. It's kind of like an Amber Alert. If you've ever had your phone go off when one of those is issued, you know these will get your attention, certainly. And wireless emergency alerts, make sure you have those turned on, just in case you have toggled that off. So there are many ways on here to get warned whenever we have severe weather.
And an additional plug for our mobile app, the Storm Tracker 21 app. I've had a few conversations with people today who have asked me or referred to the weather app on their iPhone that comes on your phone, and I've been quick to tell them, hey, that app that comes on your phone is just raw data. There's no human interpretation to that. So the way to go really is to download our app, because either myself or Eric or Jimmy or Emily or Andrew, whoever is on duty at that particular time of day, we are the eyes and ears for that app. So we will be the ones who interpret that data. And we have 3 different zones, because the weather can change from northern Trumbull down to southern Columbiana County, or over from Mahoning to Lawrence County. So you definitely want to have a locally based weather app. It's going to be way more accurate for you.
When it's just a sunny 75-degree day and it's going to be sunny and 75 for 3 straight days, your kind of stock weather apps, they'll do okay for you.
Yes.
If you just want what the temperature is right now, or maybe what the high is this afternoon and it's just a benign day, that's fine. But anytime the weather really counts, you want to make sure that you have a trusted source that is not going to let you down. And we try our best to make our app stand out by having a lot of human input into it. Sometimes we have spelling errors. You can find those spelling errors on our app because we're the ones typing that stuff in. And sometimes we have a spelling error that we get pointed out to us. But it's just one way you can tell that this isn't done by a machine or artificial intelligence or an algorithm or anything like that. And so whenever you click on Sunday's forecast, for example, whatever's in there is going to have been typed in by someone here who took the time to kind of type in what they thought was going to happen. So not computer generated is the way to go for sure. Let's focus back in on areas around and north of I-80 now, because we do have a couple of downpours impacting Trumbull County now, and I do think there's probably at least a little bit of hail now. Let me see if I can, maybe pea-size hail. At worst, pea-size hail. This is the Girard area coming into Hubbard. Right now, Churchill. You see some of these brighter reflectivities here. This is no doubt some tropical downpours, big fat raindrops being hit by the radar beam, but there might be a couple of hailstones in here as well. Now, this isn't the big stuff that we're concerned about this afternoon. This is probably pea-size hail at worst, but this is 193 right now, coming out of Liberty, Churchill area. And this is drifting off to the north and the east, so this is coming close to the state line here before too much longer. So heads up in Sharon, Brookfield, Yankee Lake, places like that. This is drifting your way. And then farther up in Trumbull County, and way up here in Trumbull, this is almost out of the county, but near Mesopotamia, kind of the Route 87 corridor, 534s right here. We have downpours here, some lightning and thunder, maybe a gusty breeze, but this is sub-severe, and this is just about out of the northwestern part of Trumbull County here before too much longer.
Real good view, Eric, on camera 2 of that storm going through the southeastern area of Trumbull County there. That's in Niles, looking right off, pretty much due east.
Right there. So this is in Niles, not Boardman. So we're looking east here along 422, and right here, you can see the rain shaft indicating where that storm is. This is, again, central and eastern parts of Trumbull County, but we're looking from the Niles area right here. So, yeah, a good little downburst perhaps right here.
Yes.
Don't know if we're seeing much in the way of wind, but at the very least, pretty impressive rain shaft coming out of this. It'd be nice if we had a just clear, flat horizon and not all the trees and kind of modest hills, so we could see if the rain was hit, and the downdraft was hitting the ground and then kind of spreading out and creating a kind of a classic downdraft signature. It's a little hard to tell since we can't see the horizon necessarily. But at the very least, we have some hard downpours visible from our Niles camera. So yeah, good eye, Chris, on that one. That's a good view. Our other active camera right now, this is down in Boardman again, 224, and we're looking towards Canfield right here. And again, we had a downpour here a little while ago, but you're not out of the woods just yet. Not only in Boardman, but in our entire viewing area. We can't come anywhere near sounding the all clear until this main line of storms rolls through here in the next couple of hours. Going to bring the radar picture back up. You know, we understand that people are hopping in and out of the stream, especially since the severe weather has not really started to impact our viewing area just yet. But just to recap for those who are just joining us, this looks a little more raggedy than it did when we started the stream about an hour ago. This is more of a coherent line of storms moving through north central Ohio with warnings up and down the entire line a little while ago. Right now, though, the northern areas are not getting warned. We're getting some frequent lightning and some downpours, no doubt, especially just east of Cleveland right now, heading over towards Geneva on the Lake. And that little appendage is extending down towards Mesopotamia. But the only warnings now in effect are the tornado warnings out in the southern part of this line, coming towards Dover, New Philly, Strasburg, places like that. So that's it. And the stuff, again, this just looks a little more raggedy now and sub-severe. This is sub-severe, what is impacting our viewing area right now, again, around southeastern Trumbull County. We have a downpour in far northwestern Mercer County right now, Greenville on north up towards Jamestown, up towards the Crawford County line. But it's sub-severe, that's what we like to see. And we speculated here on the stream a little while ago that there was enough blow-off clouds, indicated by that kind of shield of mammatus clouds that we got some pictures of a little while ago, that cut off our supply of sunshine in a lot of the area, might have ground to a halt the rising instability in the atmosphere this afternoon. It's possible that that deck of clouds did us a little bit of a favor and stabilized things just enough to prevent a higher end severe weather outbreak from happening. We're just kind of speculating right now. We're not going to say that's definitely going to be the case, so we're going to keep vigilant here as we head through the 3 and 4 o'clock hours. But right now, we like where the trends are with this. This is what we like to see.
Earlier in the day, Eric, you and I were talking as early as 11:30, how juiced up the atmosphere was. We both had ventured outside, and we could clearly tell that, the atmosphere was getting ready to do a thing. Maybe it's the kind of thing where we needed a few more hours of instability, and we just quite didn't get it.
Didn't quite get there. Just monitoring the NWS chat rooms here. The Pittsburgh Weather Service office put up a special weather balloon early this afternoon. Typically, Weather Service offices that put up weather balloons do it twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. At this time of the year, it's 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. When conditions warrant and we really want a snapshot of what the atmosphere is like on a severe weather potential day, they'll put up a midday balloon. So they put up a midday balloon today, and the results of that are in, and a lot of wind shear aloft. Large hail would be a threat with this kind of a signature in the atmosphere, or profile in the atmosphere, I should say. He does mention that the low-level shear, the wind shear in the lowest levels of the atmosphere, close to the ground, is not particularly impressive. So aside from a quick spin-up tornado, the higher-end tornado potential is marginal. The wind shear aloft is plentiful, but down here near the ground, that changing wind direction and speed with height in the lowest, say, mile or less of the atmosphere is not super strong. So that does limit the higher-end tornado potential going off that weather balloon. So these weather balloons, it's interesting how this process works. They put up these balloons twice a day. They go up in the atmosphere, sometimes up to 30,000 feet or higher, 60,000 feet even, way up above where the airplanes fly, and then eventually the atmosphere gets so thin that the balloon pops and it falls harmlessly back to Earth. But the results of, as that balloon goes up through the atmosphere, it transmits a signal. You can look at the results of what that balloon is seeing, the wind speeds, the direction, the pressure, humidity, temperatures, everything you want to know. And then that data gets fed into the weather models that we talk about a lot. Those weather models ingest a lot more data than that, but one of the big backbones of our weather modeling, our numerical weather modeling, is the data that comes in off these weather balloons twice a day, sometimes in situations like this, maybe an extra balloon at midday. So interesting to look at that for sure. So we have a couple of downpours here locally, and tornado warning with this cell in Holmes County approaching the Dover and New Philly areas. Right now, though, no other warnings are in effect for northern Ohio. And we're hopeful that trend will continue. And the Weather Service office in Cleveland just canceled the Crawford County warning.
You were talking to Eric about the data collection, and it's one of those things. Less is more in this profession sometimes. You learn a lot from the computer simulations and the science and the technology that has evolved over the last couple of years, but you still have to know what's happening in nature, and to do that you have to go out and take measurements and see exactly what the atmosphere has given you. And to that end, we were talking about the influence that this cloud cover could have. The National Weather Service in Cleveland is suggesting that the anvil and the blow-off excuse me, will not have much pardon me, goes down the wrong pipe sometimes, but when you're trying to stay hydrated, they are suggesting to me that we don't think, this is from the Weather Service in Cleveland, the anvil cloud cover will have much impact to the storm environment over far northeast and east central Ohio. So an interesting observation from the folks in Cleveland there. Yeah, it is.
It impacts maybe the instability a little bit, but it wouldn't impact the wind shear that's available, certainly, the advance of those clouds, for sure. Just going to let this radar loop go a few times here. All right, so it is 3:23. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour here, and we got this stream online over an hour ago at this point, with plenty of time to spare before this line of storms impacts our area, because we wanted to make sure that we were all set and in place for when the line pushes through. But right now, the trends are okay. We have one storm that is producing a tornado warning still, and this has been observed. In other words, there's been a tornado on the ground occasionally with this. Now, this is out in Holmes County. This is west of Tuscarawas County, west of I-77. Here's New Philly and Strasburg and Zoar. And this is out towards Walnut Creek and places like that. Other than that, though, right now, the north central Ohio storms are sub-severe. We have no warnings in effect for the northern fringes of this, up near Akron, Canton, closer to Cleveland. And so we're hoping that trend will continue, but we can't say for sure if it will or not. Just going to real quickly while the radar plays behind me. And again, you can see some of the isolated activity. I'm going to look at some of the latest high-res modeling here on my laptop and see what some of the latest modeling is suggesting. Some of the latest modeling is suggesting that the overall timing of things looks to be about the same. You know, we're still looking at probably being out of the woods by early this evening, 6, 7 o'clock or so. This line, once it pushes across, may be followed by some newer activity trying to form off to our south and west that may still impact our area. So even though this main line that we've been tracking for the last hour or so is probably going to push on across here in the 3 and 4 o'clock hours, beyond that, it remains a question as to will our severe weather risk be over at that point, or will we have a couple of hours where we're going to have to keep a close eye on things? We can't make that call just yet. We're going to keep the threat for, or the chance in our forecast for some heavy gusty storms and possible severe weather until early this evening. I think whatever happens over the next couple of hours, almost certainly we're out of the woods by sunset at the latest, but maybe as early as 6 or 7. We'll be able to sound the all clear. If you have outdoor plans for the rest of the weekend then, and again, you can always check out the forecast on the Storm Tracker 21 app, but I will tell you that tomorrow will be a fine day. Mostly sunny in the morning and partly sunny later in the day, and we will be dry tomorrow before showers and storms try to return on Monday. Speaking of showers and storms, up near Route 322 and Route 6 up in Ashtabula County, a couple of heavy thunderstorms there, one downpour near the Mercer-Crawford line, and one thunder shower coming into the Sharon area right now. This is around Hubbard. This formed over Mahoning County a little while ago. But that is it as far as our viewing area right now. And that is a welcome sight. Again, not to say we're out of the woods or anything, but it's nice to see for the time being a lot of this activity is not reaching its full potential. .345 is the expiration time on the current tornado warning out here west of I-77. Now, if this thing does hold together, this may become a concern eventually for Columbiana County, but probably no farther north for this individual storm right here, the one that has the warning on it. And it may even just slide south of Columbiana County eventually. It certainly, almost certainly be a problem for Tuscarawas County, perhaps Carroll County as well. But with its current trajectory, this may just slip just south of East Liverpool eventually and head down into Hancock County. Into West Virginia.
Eric, we've got a storm west of Akron, just north of Wadsworth, that is showing a very, very impressive hook echo between Wadsworth and Pigeon Creek. Come out and show you this just a second.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Is that off the Cleveland radar? That
yes.
Reflected?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chris just spotted this near Wadsworth. I'm going to take off the Pittsburgh data, everything but just the Cleveland radars here. It's not as vivid on our in-house display here, but yeah, perhaps trying to hook a little bit and certainly bring up the velocity data off the Cleveland radar. That is an interesting signature right there. Again, this is over towards Akron and especially west of Akron, near Wadsworth. Keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, if it's able to maintain that, how far to the east it is able to maintain that, because the environment may be sheared, but, we don't know how much of that instability we're going to have or lose or have lost already. So we'll, as it gets closer to us, we'll see, be interested to see how that evolves.
What we're watching is this activity coming towards Akron right now, and it'll bear watching certainly. The radar signature on some displays right now shows a little bit of a hook right back in here, just south of 271, south of Richfield. And so we'll keep a very close eye on that. Just monitoring the Cleveland Weather Service chat. They've already stripped a few counties from their tornado watch, far northwest Ohio, including the islands. But they have not mentioned anything about that Summit County activity just yet. On my laptop, that certainly is interesting, focusing in on that Wadsworth area right here. The velocity data isn't super impressive. It's more of a reflectivity hook without much support on the velocity data. And you don't see it on our in-house system very vividly, even on the reflectivity. So I don't think they're going to be pulling the trigger on a tornado warning imminently with that, but certainly the radar operator at the Cleveland Weather Service office is going to keep a very close eye on that one.
Yep.
Everything this afternoon is going to, have the potential to spin. We've been talking a lot about wind shear this afternoon. That's the changing of the wind direction and the wind speed as you go up in height through the atmosphere. Oftentimes near the ground in situations like this, you have a kind of a southeast or south wind, but upstairs the wind is more out of the west or even northwest. And so that difference in the wind direction can create a horizontal rotation. And then if you get an updraft from a thunderstorm, that can tilt that rotation in the vertical. And then you get some rotation in a thunderstorm. Sometimes you get a wall cloud coming out of that, and sometimes out of a wall cloud comes a funnel cloud, and then out of that comes a tornado. It's a whole process, but that's sometimes what you can get in these kinds of situations. You need enough instability, and you need plentiful wind shear. Take a break from the radar for just a second. I showed this a little while ago, but I understand not everybody is watching this stream all the way through. We talked about this kind of last hour. We're in a level 3 enhanced risk of severe weather today. These outlooks are put out by the Storm Prediction Center, part of NOAA, part of the National Weather Service. An enhanced risk in eastern Ohio and western PA, not very common. It happens a couple of times, a few times a year. This is, I think, our third, maybe fourth one we've had this year. So perhaps a little bit above average or near average for a year in our part of the country. It's very rare for us to be in a level 4 or level 5. Almost never happens that we're in a level 5. But enhanced risk generally means that there's high confidence that storms will have potential to create winds and hail, and even the tornado risk can be higher in an enhanced risk. And there's a big difference usually in the frequency and severity of the threat when you go from a slight risk to an enhanced risk. Notice how much more often we're in a slight risk, 20 to 25 times per year as opposed to just 1 or 2 times per year. The level 1 risk, that's very common. We get this all the time in the spring and summer, generally on average 30 to 40 times. That's a long-term average. Some years it's very active. We'll have maybe 60 days under a level 1 marginal risk, but a long-term average, that's generally 30 to 40 times per year. So when you see us show graphics like, let's bring up this one. We'll bring up a graphic like this on air, and we'll post it on social media a lot, showing the risk categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is basically what we're talking about. It's a 1 to 5 scale. These terms, slight, enhanced, moderate, sometimes can be kind of confusing, so we try to emphasize the numbers a little bit more. So we're kind of in that level 3 risk today in our entire area. Wind damage and hail, the primary concerns, but the tornado risk is high enough that a tornado watch has been issued for the entire area, all of eastern Ohio and western PA. All right, so we have a new tornado warning for Holmes County, just issued by the Cleveland Weather Service office. That will probably cover the rest of Holmes County, eastern Holmes County. They will then hand off this storm to the Pittsburgh office because they cover Tuscarawas County.
Something like 1992 was the last high risk we had.
That sounds right. It might have been 91 or 92.
Yeah.
That's about right. And that was back when there were only a few categories. We've only gone to this kind of 5-category system within the last, I want to say, 10 years, something like that. Before then, I think there were only 3. And so, yeah, the last time we were in a high risk in our area, it's probably been about 30 years.
New severe thunderstorm warning for that storm north of Wadsworth, headed pretty much right for Akron right now.
Okay. There we go. There's the polygon for the warning for the storm that Chris just brought to our attention a few moments ago. Notice they have the tornado possible tag on this. That's because they're watching possible rotation on the west side of this near Copley and just north and east of Wadsworth now, south of Richfield. It's kind of this part of the storm right here that they're keeping a very close eye on with potential rotation. It's not real tight rotation right now, but it really does bear watching. It's a little bit more impressive on this radar display, the reflectivity display, than it is on the actual velocity display, which I'll bring up now. And you know, you just don't see a real tight couplet with that. It's very broad, but they're going to keep a very close eye on this, and they did put the tornado possible tag on this storm for that very reason.
It's a rather small storm too. I mean, it's just as far as its overall size. I mean, it doesn't suggest, at least on the surface, that this could be a complex storm with a large rotating updraft.
Right. So that's the newest warning that we've seen issued for anything outside of the tornado warnings in east central Ohio. This severe thunderstorm warning out in the Akron area, that includes Copley and Fairlawn, runs until 4 o'clock. In our viewing area, let's just show you what's going on here at home, and the answer is not much. You see some green over Columbiana County, but most of that is high clouds and not necessarily rain. We're seeing some rain, some lightning and thunder as you get up into Trumbull and Mercer counties. Quick downpour or two, Sharon area, West Middlesex, places like that, and then heading up towards extreme northern Mercer County, and especially up into Crawford County, closer to Meadville. We're seeing some frequent lightning up there and some downpours. And also a few downpours in extreme northern Trumbull County. This is the 322 corridor up into Ashtabula County, up near Andover. Some heavy rain, some lightning and thunder up there, but it's all pretty benign once you get down towards the airport in Vienna and down towards Cortland as well. There's an emergency manager mentioning lots and lots of lightning near the fairgrounds in Holmes County. And the Pittsburgh office is going to issue a tornado warning, it looks like, for Tuscarawas County here before too much longer.
Okay.
Because again, they're going to, there it is. That's actually for Coshocton and Tuscarawas. There's the new polygon. So the Cleveland office handing off this storm to the Pittsburgh office, which covers Coshocton and Tuscarawas counties. So now we have a tornado warning in effect until 4 o'clock. This includes Dover and New Philly, where I'm from and where a lot of my family is. So heads up, family, if you're watching this, time to take shelter. Tornado warning in effect until 4 o'clock. This storm right now does not have a confirmed tag on it or observed tag. So we're not sure if this is still producing something on the ground, but the potential is there, certainly. Certainly enough rotation being picked up by the radar to continue the tornado warning off to the south and the east. So Walnut Creek, and then heading around Route 39 closer to New Philly, Dover, down towards Uricksville, Stone Creek, then heading up towards Strasburg and Zoar. Now's the time to seek shelter. Now in our TV viewing area, it's interesting, if this continues on its current path, it's likely to impact areas south of our viewing area, more southern Carroll County and points off to the south, and likely miss our TV viewing area just to our south. But that's just one item that we're watching. The other thing we're going to keep a close eye on is what's going on with this storm near Akron, near Copley. This has a severe thunderstorm warning on it until 4 o'clock with a tornado possible tag. Everything outside of those two areas is sub-severe. And really, actually, there's not much going on in most of our viewing area right now, with the exception of some downpours in parts of Mercer and Trumbull counties. Couple looks outside. This is Boardman looking to the west towards Canfield. Threatening looking sky once again. We had some downpours earlier that were fairly brief around the 224 corridor on this Saturday afternoon. Right now, though, just some dark, threatening skies looking out to the west. Our other active camera is up in Trumbull County in Niles, where we were watching a rain shadow earlier, or rain signature, I should say, from the eastern Trumbull County storm, but that is no longer the case. It's no longer visible on the camera. It's too far away. This is overlooking the Eastwood Mall complex, and yeah, threatening skies up here, but yeah, not much actually going on. The wind is fairly calm, a little bit breezy, but wind is fairly calm. There's our tornado warnings. And again, if you have interests or family south and west of the Youngstown area, closer to Canton and especially south of there, this is Tuscarawas County, New Philadelphia right here, home of the Fighting Quakers, ironic. And then off to the west, Walnut Creek, and heading out into what we call Amish country. Lots of great shopping and food out here, but they're getting a doozy of a thunderstorm right now that has had a history of producing some rotation, and there's just a tremendous amount of lightning with this as it comes across Route 39, and eventually it's going to impact a lot of northern Tuscarawas County around Dover and New Philly. Looks like that individual storm is likely going to miss our viewing area to the south. Weather Service mentioning they're still watching the rotation near Millersburg out there to the west of New Philly. Checking in on this Akron area storm. Again, the reflectivity right now is not super impressive. It still wants to be a little bit hook-like, but the wind data off the Cleveland radar source, again, it's not particularly tight, this rotation. It's pretty ragged. You're not seeing a tight couplet in here, but again, with every scan, they're going to keep a very close eye on this. This is Route 18 right here. There's 277, 76. And again, this is kind of the greater Akron area out into Summit County. Do a little loop on that velocity data. Actually slow that down a little. Yeah, there's a little broad rotation right there, but you know, if I were sitting in the hot seat in Cleveland right now, I would not pull the trigger on a tornado warning with this, even though the reflectivity shows a little bit of a hook on it. The wind velocity data is not particularly impressive. It bears watching for sure. Looking at our rotation product, which is kind of a derived product, and it tends to be a few minutes behind. There's been a little bit of a signature right there, tracking right there. Of some rotation, and that rotation, you know, the last scan had it right here, but it's more like right here right now, just west of downtown Akron. Got to pay attention to that, but I think it's good that they just put a tornado possible tag on that and did not actually issue a tornado warning just yet. For our friends over in western PA, we have some rain over in Mercer County. This is Fredonia, Mercer, up towards New Lebanon. It gets a little worse as you get up towards extreme northern Mercer and especially up into Crawford County. You can see all the lightning and thunder up there. But overall, pretty benign right now over in Mercer County and into Lawrence County as well. And again, we haven't mentioned Columbiana County very much today because not much has been going on thus far. Maybe a little rain trying to fall out of these clouds. Lisbon, West Point area, heading up towards Salem, Latonia, Columbiana. Washingtonville, places like that, but really nothing to write home about at the current time. But don't let your guard down just yet. Again, tornado watch in effect until 9 p.m. And the Weather Service office just mentioned in the chat basically what I just mentioned here, that the rotation is broad, it's weak but notable, and they're talking about the rotation near Fairlawn out in Summit County. This is the tornado watch. I'll zoom out here. All the counties in red, and this includes just about all of northern and north central Ohio, panhandle of West Virginia and western PA under a tornado watch until 9 p.m. Now, we expect our severe weather threat to be confined in the next couple of hours mostly, and then after that we should be mostly in the clear. We'll probably see more counties shaved out of this tornado watch here in the next hour or so out in northwest Ohio, and then eventually they'll start chopping away at this tornado watch piecemeal throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening. Reason why it runs until 9, look how big this watch is. It covers a lot of real estate, and so the severe weather threat probably actually will continue until 9 in some of these areas out into central PA, into New York State as well. So that's the kind of the broad picture, tornado watch for everyone, but right now no warnings for anyone in our viewing area.
Kind of surprised to see some new development west of 71 there, back toward the Bowling Green area and Findlay area.
Yeah, we've got a few stragglers out here, one of which even has a warning on it, I see, north of Mansfield. Here's Shelby. And they are just that, they're kind of stragglers. They are well west of this kind of first line that's pushing to the east. And this is what we'll watch, Chris, I think, as we go beyond, say, 5 o'clock, is does any of this activity kind of linger for a while or not? And if it does, how strong is it?
Mm-hmm. It's always a wild card when we talk about, you know, the juice in the atmosphere. You know, how much do you work through? I mean, how worked over is the atmosphere going to be, and you know, getting close to when we start losing a little bit of daytime heating and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, for example, the temperature at the airport, and again, we get our official observations from the Youngstown Warren Airport in Vienna, has dropped from 86, about 2 o'clock, it was close to 86, now it's 77, so it's cooler. It's not as hot, not as unstable, therefore. It's still plenty humid, the dew point's in the upper 60s, but it's not as hot as it was a few hours ago before we had a few rain showers push through and we had some clouds push in as well. So that's part of the process of the atmosphere trying to get worked over a little bit, is the presence of clouds and a few cooling rain showers as well. And oftentimes when it rains, it stabilizes the atmosphere enough that anything that tries to encounter that kind of new air mass has a little bit of a harder time getting going because there's just not as much fuel to ingest into the storms, into the updrafts. All right, so another look at our television viewing area. This warning polygon is well to the west. It's pretty small. It just basically is now just Akron, just the immediate Akron area. It runs until 4, but there are no warnings in effect for our television viewing area as we speak. We do have some rain showers pushing through. The atmosphere is not as hot and unstable as it was a few hours ago, but we still have plenty of wind energy in the atmosphere, so we can't snooze on this, even though, you know, we like the trends over the last hour or so. We can't snooze on this because there's still some potential in the atmosphere this afternoon for sure. And, you know, even though it's cooled off at the airport, and it's not as hot generally speaking across our area as it was earlier on. I'm going to bring up the current local temperatures just to see what some of our local temperatures look like. And yeah, there's still some warm spots, even though everyone's kind of backed off from the middle 80s. We still are hanging on to 80 in Calcutta down towards East Liverpool, 76 in Boardman, 79 in Cortland. Notice how much cooler it is to the west, though, where rain continues and storms are continuing at this hour. We're in the mid-70s back towards Akron and Canton. So, you know, a 4 p.m. temperature of 76 to 80 is better than 86 to 90, certainly. That is going to decrease the instability some, but the atmosphere is still loaded enough when it comes to wind energy that, again, we can't snooze on the threat just yet. All right, so we'll take another quick tour of our tornado warnings here. This is to our south and west. This is the storm that has been producing warnings occasionally for the last few hours. A couple of warning polygons here, and heading into Tuscarawas County here before too much longer, so heads up Dover, New Philly, maybe down towards Stone Creek as well. The warning polygon does not include the Canton area. This is just south of you. But this storm has had a history of trying to rotate and has even had some confirmed tornadic activity at times over the last few hours as it's moved through north central Ohio. The other warning polygon that we have active is not a tornado warning, but a severe thunderstorm warning. And again, it's just for the immediate Akron area. Downpour, maybe a little hail in through here, but the velocity data off the Cleveland radar source continues to be not super impressive. You just don't see a real good couplet here. And so Weather Service Office is keeping a close eye on this up until the expiration time of this warning in about 10 minutes. But it does not look like it is going to produce anything imminently in terms of a tornado. At least we hope not. So, all right, new severe thunderstorm warning for Portage and Summit. So they're going to extend that polygon just to the east from that Akron warning. So this is the new warning polygon right here, in effect until 4:30. So this backs right up against the western edge of our viewing area. So the warning polygon stops at the Trumbull and Mahoning County lines, but it is in effect for a good chunk of Portage County. Now until 4:30 this afternoon, this includes Cuyahoga Falls, Stowe, Kent, Brimfield, Ravenna, places like that, Rootstown, heading over towards Charlestown. And the reason for this warning, we probably have a hail-producing storm now near Cuyahoga Falls, and this has been trying to subtly rotate, probably not enough to really get too worried about a tornado, but yeah, doozy of a storm here. And with these high reflectivity values, we're probably looking at some pretty good hail here. I'll do a quick slice of that storm. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's try that again. So a little 3D slice of the warned storm over here near Akron. You can see how tall in the atmosphere this is getting. Take off the warning banner here so you can see this a little bit better. The top of the storm getting up to about 50,000 feet or so, even 60,000 feet. There may be an overshooting top right here, up to 60,000 feet. And when you see these bright purples and pinks, they are getting pretty tall, pretty high up in the storm. That means the radar beam is hitting big things up in the middle of that storm, either big fat raindrops or more than likely some hailstones as well. So the reason for that warning is at this point mostly because of hail, the hail potential within the storm. And yeah, my kind of off-camera radar source here does confirm that there's probably some pretty big hailstones falling around Cuyahoga Falls right now, near Talmadge and Stowe. So this is the closest warning we've had to our viewing area in a little while, since we had one earlier up in Crawford County, PA. This warning runs until 4:30, and you can see where the core of the storm is right now, around Akron and Stowe, getting set to come east, close to I-76. So heads up Kent, Ravenna. And then maybe eventually, if this holds together, we'll be talking more about Newton Falls and Craig Beach and places like that as it approaches our viewing area. Right now, this current warning polygon runs until 4:30 p.m. The activity in northwest Ohio has one warning polygon on it as far as the severe thunderstorm warning. That's north of Mansfield. There's a flash flood warning then closer to Sandusky up there. But in our television markets, all is quiet right now. Columbiana County, most of Mahoning County. Raining a little bit, but not much in Trumbull and Mercer right now. We've got some harder downpours up into Ashtabula County around Andover right now, and some heavier storms closer to Meadville. But this is, again, just north of our viewing area. And that warning polygon that's in effect for the Akron area right now stops at the Mahoning County line and the Trumbull County line as well. That warning runs until 4:30. In addition to the tornado watch, which is in effect for our entire area until 9, there's actually a flood watch in effect for parts of our area through this evening as well. In our viewing area, this includes Columbiana County, Lawrence County, and down into Beaver County, closer to the greater Pittsburgh area. The Cleveland office opted not to issue for most of their counties. But wherever you are this afternoon into early this evening, in addition to the threats for severe weather, true severe weather like wind and hail and isolated tornadoes, any storm could have a pretty hefty downpour and produce a little too much rain at one time. And we had some hard downpours in parts of this area last night, which saturated the ground pretty well. Some places had 2 or 3 inches of rain last night, especially in areas south of Route 224. Weather Service office in Cleveland watching a weak supercell structure east side of Cleveland, Beechwood, Shaker Heights area. It's weak, but they're actually watching it out their window. They can see it from the office there.
Very nice facility, by the way. Had a chance to spend some time there in the spring. They moved into some new digs up there outside of Cleveland. They used to be near Hopkins Airport, but the Weather Service in Cleveland now in a very much state-of-the-art facility, and lots of hard-working folks there.
Yeah, I was jealous of your visit. I've yet to see the new facilities, but yeah, the National Weather Service office in Cleveland moved to some new facilities, and they mentioned in the chat room there that they're actually watching this out the window because they can see the structure out their window. And in addition to that, of course, it has a pretty hefty radar signature as well. This is probably producing some hail, and certainly you've seen the perk up of lightning from this. Again, this is south of Euclid, south of the lakeshore right now, and this will be a problem for northern Geauga County and probably eventually Ashtabula as well. We'll see if this tries to be a right mover at all and start heading off more to the south. If it does, we'll have to keep a closer eye on that for our viewing area.
Storm near Akron, just to the east of Akron. The last scan or two on reflectivity, at least from my perspective here, is trying to pulse up a little bit. Not seeing that comma-shaped hook per se. You know, there's still a little bit of a suspicious-looking structure there, but the overall organization appears to be a little bit healthier.
It does, and it's almost certainly producing a fair amount of hail right now. This is the hail core that's, again, this product is probably a few minutes behind, but this hail core has been skimming through the Talmadge area, getting set to impact Brimfield probably here shortly. And this is probably the main threat from this is the large hailstones. So you have Talmadge, Cuyahoga Falls. This is coming towards Brimfield and Kent. Anyone with their car out right now around Brimfield up to Kent, if you have access to a carport or garage, maybe bring it in, because we have hailstones falling out of this that are more than just the little pea-sized stuff. This is maybe producing up to quarter-size hail or even larger as it comes out of Summit County and comes into more of Portage County. And this is the main driver behind the severe thunderstorm warning that is out for these areas. It's not necessarily the wind based on the radar data. This has been trying to rotate a little bit, and actually the last scan here, you know, you got maybe a little bit more of a tight signature right there. Brimfield down to Mogador. And we'll keep an eye on that right there. See if that continues to try to tighten up or not. If that signature right there, if that tries to tighten up a little bit more here in the next couple of scans, they might have to consider a tornado warning for that. We'll be watching that very carefully. The traditional reflectivity scan here, see where we get some of these grays and blacks on the reflectivity? That almost certainly means hail, and we can show you products that confirm that, but even just on the traditional radar that you can look at here, when you get these big bright colors, especially when you get past the purples and pinks and into the grays and blacks, that's very high reflectivity values, and that means the radar beam is hitting some hailstones, no doubt, around Brimfield right now. So again, heads up, Kent, Brimfield, and points east closer to Rootstown and Ravenna for some hailstones.
Well, the concern there would be too, if we are starting to see that happen, you know, that area of rotation we were watching, you know, could be an indication of the updraft trying to strengthen maybe?
Yep, for sure. It's the next 5 or 10 minutes will be interesting to see what happens with this.
If we want to, I've gone to our Columbiana and Youngstown cameras if we want to just kind of take folks for a peek outside whenever looking off to the north there in Columbiana.
Yeah, this is looking north in Columbiana. The traffic circle is now behind me. So ominous looking sky there. And our other active camera, we'll bring up here from Youngstown. This is, of course, is Route 680 down here. We're looking kind of almost due west. And threatening skies, and you can probably even see a little bit of rain trying to fall on the horizon here where the horizon gets a little bit cloudier, a little bit muddier. That's probably some rain off on the distant western horizon there. And the Weather Service in Cleveland is mentioning that they are definitely watching that rotation or possible strengthening rotation very carefully towards Kent and Brimfield. I would say for the short term in our viewing area, this is going to be what we're going to be watching easily the most carefully, is this activity coming across I-76. It's this storm right here. Brimfield getting rocked right now with hailstones and strong winds and a lot of lightning and a heavy rain coming into Rootstown right now. And this is kind of hugging I-76 coming eastward. So on its current path, this will become a concern for the Newton Falls area, maybe eventually the Lordstown area, down to Austintown as well. But we're a little ways away from that. We'll see how this thing behaves over the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. It looks to me like maybe the hail threat or the hailstones are not quite as big as they were a couple of scans ago. The rotation is boy, it's hard to say. It's trying to hold its own maybe, but it hasn't perked up considerably. Let's look at that latest velocity data.
Yeah, still not.
It's noisy.
Yes.
It's certainly not a slam dunk. At the very least, you're seeing some strong winds through here, but it's possible that this will prompt a tornado warning at some point soon from the the Cleveland National Weather Service office. They have dropped the tornado warning for Tuscarawas County for a higher end severe thunderstorm warning. So this part of what we're watching, the southern flank, no longer a threat in the immediate term to produce a tornado. Doesn't seem as likely anyway, so they opted for more of a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag on it. That includes a lot of Tuscarawas County and now extreme southwestern parts of Carroll County as well, including around the Sherridsville and Delroy areas, Atwood Lake, places like that. The worst of this is still just to the west of New Philly, where a tornado warning is in effect for another 14 minutes. But that is going to miss our TV viewing area, that particular appendage, if you will. This is what we're going to be watching very carefully, and I'll put a loop on this. This is what we're going to be watching coming across I-76 right here. Hail-producing storm, been flirting with trying to rotate some over the last few scans. And the Weather Service is about to issue a tornado warning for Portage County. All right, so here it comes. There it is. All right, so the Weather Service has issued a tornado warning now with this storm for Portage County, right here. This warning is in effect until 4:30. It includes Brimfield, Kent, Ravenna, kind of the southern tier, if you will, of Portage County, and basically the I-76 corridor. Anyone just north or south of the I-76 corridor, this would include you over in Portage County. Now, in our television viewing area, if this were to hold together over the next 15 minutes to half an hour, we would probably see a new tornado warning polygon issued for parts of Trumbull County and maybe parts of Mahoning County as well, but especially the southern tier of Trumbull County. This will definitely bear watching as we go deeper into the 4 o'clock hour. So heads up if you're watching us from the Lordstown area, Newton Falls, and eventually even out towards Austintown. You don't need to seek shelter right now, but just a heads up, if you're watching us, or if you know someone who isn't watching us, who lives in those areas, maybe send them a text or give them a call and let them know, hey, you might have to pay pretty close attention to the weather over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so as this continues pushing out to the east. So again, tornado warning was just issued by the Cleveland National Weather Service office for parts of Portage County until 4:30 this afternoon. There's the storm right there pushing across I-76. The tornadic rotation just now, just east of Brimfield. There it is right there. So we've seen an uptick certainly in the last few scans of this rotation signature right here. This is now well east of Akron. So there you go.
Looking like just south of Brimfield. Yeah, that last scan or two, the velocity of data is really
It's not what we want to see for sure.
not at all. We were worried about this happening too. You and I were talking about 10 minutes ago. We were watching the hail component of this storm really start to strengthen. It was showing up on the reflectivity. It was showing up on our hail data product. And we were concerned that was a sign that the updraft was strengthening. And of course, now we have a tornado warning with it.
We do. And again, for those just joining us on the stream, 4:30 is the expiration time on this tornado warning. This is in Portage County, just to the west of our television market. If this storm were to continue on its present track and hold together, we'd be concerned about parts of our viewing area, including western Mahoning County and southern and western Trumbull County. We're not going to tell you to seek shelter just yet, but just a heads up that we're going to have to pay a little bit closer attention to the weather in parts of our viewing area here in the 4 o'clock hour. Let's time this out a little bit. And these will be approximate times, don't forget. But some approximate times. Newton Falls here in about 15 to 20 minutes. Lordstown, maybe bottom of the hour, 4:30 or so. Heading over towards Niles, 4:40 or so. Same thing in Canfield. And again, extrapolate if your city is not listed. If you're close to one of these spots, you can kind of extrapolate a little bit. For example, Boardman's not listed here, but maybe you'll have to pay attention to this as we head closer to 4:40 to 4:45 in Boardman. And Warren is not listed here. It looks like it's going to be mostly south of Warren, this circulation. Youngstown not listed here, but I think if this were to hold together coming across 76 and then eventually coming across the I-80 corridor around Youngstown, we'd be pretty concerned about this, maybe closer to 445-ish, something like that. Beyond that, too early to speculate if this will be still holding its own as it gets over closer to the state line, but in the near term, this is kind of what we're looking at in terms of arrival times. So again, if you're watching this, or if you know someone who isn't watching it, who may be outside or that lives in one of these spots, maybe give them a heads up that pretty soon we're going to have to pay really close attention to this in our television viewing area in southern Trumbull County, northwestern parts of Mahoning County as well. So heads up, anyone on the water out towards Lake Milton in the Craig Beach area and heading up into the Southington area and especially closer to Newton Falls, heads up. We're going to be watching this very, very closely. Right now, the tightest rotation appears to be just south and east of Brimfield, and mostly just south of I-76. So we'll bring up that velocity data. What we're looking at when we show these colors, sometimes we forget to kind of explain what's going on. Differing colors means different wind directions. The wind the colors that are red are blowing away from the radar source. The radar source in Cleveland is up here, so the wind is blowing away, and then green is towards. So you can discern some rotation from that, kind of like this. When you have the wind blowing like this, and then like this, a little rotation right here. And this signature, or this couplet, if you will, has tightened up some. It looked pretty raggedy a few scans ago, but now it's tightened up some. And you can see this rotation is now just south of I-76, just south of Rootstown, but you want to be sheltered in Rootstown right now. Brimfield, we'll give you the all clear here in a few minutes, but stay sheltered for a few more minutes if you're near Brimfield. Here's the latest scan. We just got a fresh scan, so the rotation is more right here. Again, this is just due south of I-76, just north of Route 43, and the greater Rootstown area being impacted by this. Still getting some big hailstones too. in addition to the threat for a tornado and some strong winds with this, our radar algorithm is still picking up on some pretty good hailstones right in through here around Rootstown, up closer to Ravenna as well. Still a core of hail right here. Let's see if that holds together. That hail core is mostly just along and just north of 76, while the rotation is a little bit south of 76 right now. So you got the hail up here, and the rotation is a little more down here. Yeah, this is becoming a true supercell thunderstorm. It has a structure of a true supercell, and this has always been a possibility for this afternoon with the amount of wind shear that we have aloft. Let's go back to the reflectivity data. And yeah, there's our storm right there. So again, this is right along I-76. So anyone within a few miles of I-76 from Portage County coming to the east and eventually into parts of Mahoning and southern Trumbull, you gotta watch this one very, very carefully because it may very well, thank you, sir, it may very well hold its own coming across into our television viewing area. Chris providing me with a little liquid comfort here. Throat gets dry once you talk for long enough.
Lots of talking.
Lots of talking and not one warning in our area just yet, Chris, but that may very well change.
Well, yeah, and this is a time, and Eric, you've suggested it several times already, even if you yourself are not directly in the path of one of these polygons or could be affected, good idea for folks who may not have the internet or may not be in a position to see this stream, to give them a heads up. You've let family know that what could be coming their way. I've let my family and friends know what may be coming their way. So it takes teamwork in the truest sense to get the word out there when we have the potential for some tornado warnings.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is Saturday. It's August, and people are doing stuff. It's summertime, and even though we've been talking about a severe weather threat for a few days now, maybe people, a lot of people didn't alter their plans too much, and so no doubt we have a lot of people outside right now, perhaps on one of our area lakes, including Lake Milton. And if you know someone who is doing that right now, give them a heads up if you please, because this is heading right along I-76 towards a lot of those areas. And I'm not showing the hail right now, but I'm still pretty impressed with the hail signature here in kind of the core of this along I-76. We're going to see this graphic populate. There it is right there. So the hail core itself is kind of hugging 76 or just north, where the rotation is maybe just south of I-76. This is a true supercell thunderstorm. It has all the hallmarks of a supercell. It has the hail, a lot of lightning, and enough rotation to prompt a tornado warning as well. Let's bring up the latest velocity data off the Cleveland radar. All right, so we're looking still right there. This is now south and east of Rootstown and maybe just over or east of Route 44 over here in Portage County. Heads up as you head off closer to Edinburgh along 76 and points east and down towards Atwater even. Anyone between Atwater and I-76, now's the time to seek shelter from this. This is Route 183 right here. This is a tornado warning that is in effect until the bottom of the hour at 4:30 this afternoon. This storm is producing hail, it's producing strong winds, a lot of lightning. Look at all these plus signs. Those are positive voltage lightning strikes, indicating a very strong storm with a lot of dangerous lightning that can strike things. And you don't want any part of this if you're downwind from this or downstream of this in eastern Portage County and then into southwestern Trumbull and western Mahoning as well.
That storm we were watching up to the north near the Cleveland area, kind of still fighting out there. There's still, some weak rotation with it, but certainly is not on the level of the storm in Portage County right now. But if, folks in northern Trumbull County who are already getting another storm right now, another one to keep an eye on that's kind of running hot on its heels. Although the Weather Service in Cleveland not really talking much about it right now, but know that it is still out there.
It is. So that's another one to keep an eye on, but as Chris mentioned, yeah, it doesn't have quite the pep in its step as the one we're tracking coming across I-76 right now. We are getting some thunder and lightning in parts of Trumbull County right now, independent of what we've been tracking. But all of this is sub-severe and just kind of garden variety summertime stuff up near the I-87 or the Route 87 corridor and the northern tier of Trumbull County. Route 45, of course, up in here. This is Bristol, heading over towards Mecca, Mosquito Lake area. This is pretty garden variety and nothing to be concerned about, really. But you are getting a downpour for sure. We've got some rain heading down closer to Youngstown right now, but this guy right here, this is a supercell thunderstorm that has a tornado warning on it until 4:30, and we'll see if a new warning polygon is issued for parts of our viewing area here in the next 15 minutes as this continues its track along I-76. Right now it's kind of hugging I-76, and anyone within a few miles of 76, either north or south, you got to pay real close attention to this. And anyone who's watching this that is near this, you need to be sheltered right now. In central Portage County and eastern parts of Portage County as well. We'll probably give you the all clear here from Rootstown on west or Route 44 on west, closer to Brimfield and Kent. You're in the all clear right now. Ravenna will give you the all clear. The rotation is now to your south and to your east. And before we head back to that storm, we'll just do a quick check-in on some of the activity south of there. Warned storms throughout the last few hours coming through Holmes County and Tuscarawas County, but the tornado warnings have been dropped. These are severe thunderstorm warnings now for the I-77 corridor south of Canton, closer to Dover, New Philly. All of that activity, though, that particular segment is going to be a miss for our TV viewing area. Back here in our TV viewing area, all is quiet right now in Columbiana County. May not stay that way for long, but right now all is quiet in Lisbon and Columbiana and East Palestine, heading down towards the Ohio River as well. But right here is what we're watching. This is a supercell thunderstorm over in Portage County, heading along I-76, heads up Craig Beach, heads up Austintown area, Meander Reservoir, places like that, heading up towards Lordstown, and anyone in between. Even the 224 corridor, you have to pay attention to this, from Berlin and Ellsworth, heading over towards Canfield, and maybe eventually Boardman as well. Not sure how far south just yet this will meander down to the 224 corridor, but certainly the closer you are to Interstate 80 and 76 up into the Austintown area, you may have to seek shelter here before too much longer. All right, so there's the latest velocity, which is a little bit messier.
Got another mesoscale discussion from Storm Prediction Center in the last 15 minutes. Just having to do with this existing tornado watch that they issued. The threat for supercells producing damaging hail and a few tornadoes persists across the area. Hail threat may be increasing with these widely spaced cells, and that I think is key, the widely spaced part.
Yeah.
From eastern Ohio into PA and New York. So they continue to call attention for the large hail potential increasing. So again, we talk about these updrafts getting stronger and stronger, and it looks as if the main threat could evolve into a large hail threat.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, the hail is one aspect of this we've been talking about occasionally today. It's not often around here that we talk about big hailstones. We see hail around here with a fair amount of frequency in big-time summer storms, but they tend to be more the pea-sized stuff that's a little more conversational. It's not going to damage anything, but you might look out on your deck and see, you know, some little gumdrop-sized hailstones and things like that. But it's not often we see more significant hailstones, but it's one of those days today that is that potential is certainly there. So here's where our rotation is right now. It looks a little raggedy on the last scan, but it's still there. It's still enough to prompt the warning until 4:30. And again, this is I-76 right here, coming out towards Palmyra here before too much longer. And we'll see here by the bottom of the hour whether we're going to get a new warning downstream of this, because this is making a beeline, it looks like, a little more to the south of 76, like this, as opposed to right along 76. So, yeah, it looks like there's a new warning polygon. Or they're going to continue the warning. All right, so they just sharpened up the tornado warning polygon a little bit. Took some areas out of it. Now it's confined to basically I-76 and south in Portage County. There's our rotation right here. Heads up more south of 76, it looks like now, as far as the the threat for rotation in a tornado with this. So it may be just south of Craig Beach and a little more towards Deerfield and eventually Berlin that we have to be concerned about, closer to the Route 224 corridor in Mahoning County as opposed to the I-76 corridor, maybe more down this way. So let's zoom our radar out and show you kind of what we're looking at here. You know, we may be looking at more of a track, something like this, a little more of a right mover like this, as opposed to kind of hugging the I-76 corridor. It may be more drifting a little bit this way. So again, a heads up. We don't have any warnings just yet, but heads up in western Mahoning County.
And even if there is no tornado warning issued, I almost guarantee a severe thunderstorm warning given the hail potential and the history of a rotating updraft with this thing. So even if you are in, say, Ellsworth, Canfield, Boardman, again, Craig Beach, as Eric mentioned, south of 76, there are going to be impacts of some sort with this thing.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Chris makes a very good point though. Even if a tornado warning is not continued downstream of this, a pretty nasty thunderstorm with hail potential is coming our way in Mahoning County and western parts of Mahoning County especially. Weather Service office in Cleveland is mentioning the rotation north of Atwater near the intersection of 183 and State Route 14, just south of 76. So yeah, we're looking at right in through there. And it looks to me like that rotation is starting to take more of a southward jog instead of kind of due west-east. So this is where we're going to be watching very carefully through here, closer to the 224 corridor in western parts of Mahoning County. And yeah, I think we're probably still seeing some pretty decent-sized hailstones now southeast of Ravenna, northwest of Deerfield. Let's show you what I'm looking at here. Kind of zoom out a little bit. Here's our hail zone right here. It's moving like this. And this is more than just the little pea-sized stuff. This could be up to a quarter or larger, enough that, again, if you have access to a carport or a garage, if your car is out downstream of this, closer to Deerfield and places like that, maybe eventually Ellsworth, maybe a good idea to bring in that car.
Severe thunderstorm warning issued for Ashland and Wayne County. We were talking about those storms that are kind of back building behind into north central Ohio. So clearly there is enough still juice left over for these storms to feed on, and the Cleveland Weather Service now issuing warnings for those as well. Mm-hmm. As we look at the velocity, I'm watching it kind of on our product and the radar scope product on the Portage County storm. I'm not sure what's happened, if it's trying to cycle, but there seem to be two distinct areas where we're getting the outbound data kind of spiking. There's one north of south of Charlestown, and then there's one between Atwater and Edinburgh. So I don't know if the structure of the storm that's rotating there is trying to cycle or what may be happening.
And we might be getting a little bit of splitting going on. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that'll happen in supercells, where you get a little bit of a split going on, and one starts drifting a little to the north, the other section a little more to the south. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at right here, is one little part of the rotation perhaps up here, the other probably more significant part of the rotation is more where the polygon is, just to the south. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks to everyone who's joining us on the stream this afternoon. We're coming up on 4:30 here in about 5 minutes. We've been streaming for a couple of hours, and the reason for that is, of course, today's elevated severe weather threat. And this is the biggest threat we've had in our viewing area so far today. No warnings just yet for our viewing area, but just to the west of our viewing area. Tornado warning until the bottom of the hour here at 4:30 for eastern parts of Portage County. Wouldn't be surprised if we had a new warning issued, either a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning for western Mahoning County here in the next couple of minutes. This is by far and away the biggest threat for our viewing area as far as any individual storm so far today. We've had some fairly benign, routine, garden variety summertime storms here and there so far. But so far we've been missed by the severe weather, but that may not be the case for much longer with what's coming from northwest to southeast into Mahoning County especially in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Let's do a loop here and show you the general progress of things. Still kind of hugging 76 or just south of 76. So big heads up, Ellsworth Township, Berlin as well. And then eventually Canfield up to Austintown. Heads up that we may ask you to seek shelter here before too much longer, especially south of Austintown, closer to the 224 corridor. No warning just yet, but the Weather Service office in Cleveland might have to pull the trigger on a warning here before too much longer for kind of this western stretch of Mahoning County, including the Canfield area and perhaps up to Austintown as well. Certainly Ellsworth, Berlin, out towards Craig Beach. We're getting a doozy of a storm pushing in right now. And just to show you how big and tall this is, you know, we're seeing some bright reflectivity values very high in the atmosphere. You know, this guy is getting up to 50, 60,000 feet. There's 50,000 feet right here, 60, overshooting top right here, and some of these purples are getting up to 30, 35,000 feet. That's usually a good sign that we've got a lot of hail embedded within that storm. One of our spotters, Tyler Berry, just sent a picture. Let's see, where's Tyler? Atwater. Just watching the video submitted to us by Tyler Berry. He's in Atwater, out towards extreme western Mahoning County. What looks like a shelf cloud, maybe trying to be a wall cloud. It's a little hard to say. There's a lot of trees in that video. Thanks to Tyler for sending that in.
Cleveland, it appears, is going to check with the radar operator here momentarily and see if there will be an extension of that tornado warning. So we're going to kind of be waiting with bated breath here for the next few moments as to see if we get new tornado warning coming out from Mahoning County right now.
Okay. So, Chris, if you could call closed captioning and also let
Sure.
Jimmy and production know that we're getting on TV.
Sure.
All right, so what we're finding out here is we're just about to see a tornado warning issued for parts of Mahoning County. All right, so we're just about to get a tornado warning polygon issued for parts of Mahoning County. You're going to see that graphically displayed here in the next couple of minutes as they pull the trigger on that. They've already given us a heads up that it is coming for western Mahoning County, and then we're going to get on television when that is issued because that's the rules. We've got to get on TV and give people a heads up that tornado warning is about to be issued here in western Mahoning County. Columbiana County, you're missing a lot of this heavy activity just to your south and west for now. Although it looks like it's going to try to graze southern Columbiana, some of this heavier activity. All right, so here it is, the new tornado warning just issued by the National Weather Service office in Cleveland. Runs until 5:30. It includes a good chunk of Mahoning County. All right, so everybody's EASs are going off. That's okay. Just let me know when we're on. Okay. All right, hey everyone, we're live on television now this afternoon. We've been streaming live for the last couple of hours, but now we're getting on the air on the television side because a tornado warning has been issued for parts of Mahoning County. In fact, a good chunk of Mahoning County, and this tornado warning runs until 5:30 this afternoon. This includes almost the entire county. The rotation is just about to enter the extreme western parts of Mahoning County, and this has been kind of hugging I-76 over the last hour or so, and there's been some rotation in a lot of Portage County along with some big hailstones with this storm as it comes across Portage County along I-76, and now it's just drifting maybe just south of I-76 and coming into western parts of Mahoning County. So what we're going to do is zoom in a little bit closer here for you and show you where the storm is right now. Again, this tornado warning is just for Mahoning County for the time being. This storm is just now entering the county, and so heads up downwind of this, downstream of this, coming towards Ellsworth and into Berlin and even the Austintown area, certainly the Craig Beach area. You need to seek shelter right now. Find your safe place if you are in this warning polygon, especially in western Mahoning County. Now you'll notice the polygon extends all the way to the state line. We're not going to tell you to seek shelter right this second if you're watching us from, say, Route 11 on east towards Youngstown and especially over towards the state line. You got a little while to get ready for this if you're in eastern parts of Mahoning County, but certainly from about Route 11 on west in Mahoning County, we need to find our safe place right now. Interior room, away from windows, lowest level of your home, that's the place to be. Just make sure you put as many walls between you and the outside as you can. I'm joined this afternoon by Chris Serinelli, who's off camera back in the 21 Storm Tracker Weather Center. So we're kind of tag teaming this coverage this afternoon. We've been tracking for the last couple of hours some pretty hefty storms in parts of the area, but this is our first warning of the day for our television viewing area, and it is a doozy with some big hailstones and some rotation as well.
It is, Eric, and if we can pop up, I'll switch over to camera 1 here. It's going to be our Boardman camera. That's going to give us a look off to the west, straight down 224 here. And what we've got, there you see the structure of that storm on its way in. And this is going to be right in the heart of that warning polygon here. So we know a lot of folks are on 224 at any time of day, but especially on a Saturday, especially in the summertime, there are some business openings going on there right now. There are a lot of people doing activities in the Boardman area. This is the time to get to your safe place.
It really is. Take this one seriously. You know, we don't get a lot of tornado warnings around here. We talk about this a few times a year, but we want you to take this seriously and do us a favor. If you know someone who's not watching this coverage, whether on air or online right now, they may be unaware as to what the severe weather threat is today, send them a message, especially if they're in Mahoning County, especially the western and central parts of Mahoning County. Let them know what's going on and let them know, hey, it's a good idea to find your safe location right now. Don't depend on sirens this afternoon. Sirens are an unreliable, outdated way of getting warning information. They serve a limited function. They're only designed to be heard outdoors. They're not designed to be heard indoors. So don't rely on sirens, and just because you don't hear a siren does not mean that you're fine. And just because you are hearing a siren doesn't mean you need to get in your basement right this second necessarily. Seek out other information. If you're hearing a siren somewhere across the valley this afternoon, seek out information online, on air like this, this coverage that we're doing right now. So Chris mentioned the structure looking west here. This is 224 in Market Street in Boardman heading west towards the Canfield area. Let's go back to the radar. And again, this is the first warning of the afternoon for our area. We've been under a tornado watch for a couple of hours now. That watch runs until 9 p.m. The reason it's a tornado watch instead of a severe thunderstorm watch is because the risk of a tornado this afternoon is high enough to warrant the issuance of a tornado watch. In addition to the risk of a tornado, we have the risk of hail, and we have the risk of just strong thunderstorm winds as well. And pay attention to the heavy rain threat as well, because some of these storms will have a tremendous amount of rain coming out of them. We already had kind of a hint of this last night or last evening with some very heavy storms pushing in. So here's where the storm is right now, and actually let's look at this is the traditional radar showing the rain, of course, and now we're going to switch to what we call the velocity data, the wind data off the Cleveland National Weather Service radar source. And here's where our rotation is right now. This isn't the tightest, best looking couplet in the world. The red colors are winds that are blowing away from the radar source, which is up near Cleveland. Any green colors you see, that's winds blowing more towards the radar source. Where you see green and red kind of coming together, that's where we can observe some rotation. This isn't the most impressive looking scan we've seen over the last half an hour or so. This has been a little more impressive at times. We'll do a loop on this. And so this rotation right here is just north of Route 224 right now and just south of I-76, and it's coming across almost due east. So heads up again, Ellsworth. You need to find your safe location right now. Anyone between Ellsworth and Lordstown, find your safe location for the next 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes or so. And then downstream of that, as this comes across into the greater Canfield area, especially north of 224 or around and north of 224. You're going to have to pay very close attention to this, and we'll probably have you seek shelter here within the next couple of minutes. A lot of people in Canfield heading up towards Austintown as well. Again, you're in the warning polygon until 5:30 for a good chunk of Mahoning County. If you're watching us from closer to Youngstown, closer to Boardman, and points east over towards the state line, you have a little time to get ready for this, but not much time. This is moving pretty quickly at about 40 miles per hour. So we're not going to tell you to seek your safe location right this second, but get ready to here before the end of the 4 o'clock hour, certainly, as we head towards 4:45, 4:50 for residents who are watching this deeper into Mahoning County, the central and eastern parts of the county. The rotation itself is right here as we speak. Let's actually stop the loop, and I'll kind of zoom in a little bit tighter on this. This is our rotation signature right here. So, Bedell Road, Schilling Road, this is 534 right here. Again, this is Route 224, very west-east or east-west thoroughfare in Mahoning County, of course. We talk about the 224 corridor a lot because a lot of people live near 224 in Mahoning County. And right now, this is right in between 76 and 224. Right here is where our rotation is. So the 534 corridor from 224 up to 76, in the next couple of minutes, you need to be sheltered. You need to be grabbing your mobile device, watching our stream from your safe location, the lowest level of your home. Interior room, get away from the windows, put as many walls between you and the outside as you can. If you live in an apartment building on the upper floors, hopefully by now you've made friends with someone on the bottom floor that you can find shelter with in a safer location than being on an upper floor of an apartment building. If you're in a business out here in Mahoning County, especially the western half of the county, hopefully your business, your place of business has a plan for people to go to, a place for people to go to that's safe when a tornado warning is issued. So this tornado warning runs until 5:30. Right here is the rotation right now getting set to cross Route 534 in Mahoning County.
Eric, I'm going to have our Boardman camera zoom in here, take a look off to the west here. We can clearly see the portion of the storm where the rotation is right now. You can see it's kind of separated a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in here and see if we can get an idea of where the lowering of the cloud base is. If you're looking just north of 224, you can see where, like I said, the cloud base is starting to lower. So if I would suspect that if there is a tornado with it, it would be in that general area.
Yeah, so we're seeing some inflow visible right here with this cloudiness, and then this is probably a wall cloud. It's a little bit hard to tell from this vantage point because we're kind of still far away in Boardman here, but this could be a wall cloud that is being shown on our camera here. This is in Boardman along 224 and Market Street in the heart of Boardman, and we're looking west here towards Canfield, a lowering of the cloud base right here, and there may very well be a wall cloud, which is sometimes a precursor to a funnel cloud and a tornado. So yeah, we're going to keep a very close eye on that camera in particular over the next 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, check the camera from our Youngstown tower, our transmission tower in Youngstown, too far away to see really any detail. So I think the Boardman camera is going to be a great indicator for us.
Yeah, I think so too.
And a good thing I see on that camera, there's a big billboard, electronic billboard, that is flashing the tornado warning. So that's great information. I wasn't aware that was a thing, but great for folks, like I said, driving down 224, a lot of folks running errands today, doing things outside. So, in addition to having the warnings on your phone, it's great to see that there are other ways of getting the word out to the folks.
Absolutely. Many very good ways of getting warnings in this modern day and age. That is for sure, including this live streaming coverage and television coverage. We're on TV because of this tornado warning. We've been streaming online on our apps and our website for a couple of hours with the threat for severe weather this afternoon. Here's our tornado-warned storm making eastward progress through Mahoning County. This is 534 right here. Here's Ellsworth heading up towards Lordstown, and then coming to the east towards Canfield up to Austintown, Route 11, 62, Route 46. Anyone in those vicinity or those neighborhoods, that vicinity, now's the time to find your safe location. Again, if you're watching us from more kind of Youngstown to Boardman and points east, get ready to seek shelter in the next 15 minutes. We're not going to tell you to just right now, just this second, because you got a little while yet before this storm pushes through. After all, the warning runs until 5:30 all the way to the state line. As the storm continues pushing to the east, they'll start chopping away the western section of this warning. So all that will be left by about 5:30 should be the eastern part of Mahoning County. But again, western Mahoning County, central Mahoning County, you need to find your safe location.
I don't think we want to forget completely about northwest Trumbull County. I mean, there is a storm that we have been watching off and on. We've got an area just near the Farmington area that is trying to rotate a little bit as well. It certainly is not on the level of what we're seeing in Mahoning County right now. But folks in Trumbull County, northern Trumbull County, from Farmington over to Mecca, Johnston, Cortland, even the Champion area want to keep an eye on this thing.
Okay. That is a good sharp eye there, Chris. We're going to keep an eye on the northern tier of Trumbull County with this activity out here towards Mespo. We'll put a loop on that really quickly, then we'll get back to Mahoning County. The northern tier of Trumbull, this storm, Bloomfield, Bristol, Mecca, up towards Ashtabula County as well. All right, back down to Mahoning County. Let's show you the latest wind data here to try to pick out the rotation. It's getting a little bit tough to find this on some of our scans, but more than likely our rotation is kind of this mess on the radar right here. We're getting pretty far away from the Cleveland radar source right now, which is near the Cleveland Hopkins Airport. So the storm, or the radar beam, is sampling the storm fairly far up into the storm right now, and the radar data gets a little bit noisier the farther away you get from the radar site. But here's where our rotation likely is right now, right around here, still between 76 and 224, and closer now to 224 around Ellsworth. So anyone around and near Ellsworth, you got to be in a safe location for the next 15 minutes or so. The National Weather Service office in Cleveland sharing a few pictures of what we're seeing in western Mahoning County with a supercell structure to our clouds out here. Very vivid supercell structure, something you don't see oftentimes in our part of the country. This is a structure that you sometimes see more often in the southeastern U.S., in the Corn Belt and out into the Plain States. It's not something we see oftentimes around here, but we're seeing some pretty vivid pictures of western Mahoning County right now, thanks to Tyler Berry, who is on the move out in western Mahoning County, sending pictures and video of what he's seeing out there. This storm has also had a history of producing some hail as it moved through Portage County. The latest hail tracks show it kind of holding its own, that hail core, as it enters Mahoning County. And so, in addition to the threat for rotation, strong winds, heavy rain, there's probably hail at least the size of quarters coming out of this in some parts of Mahoning County right now, especially just around and north of 224. This product tends to be a couple of minutes behind, so the hail core is probably a little more like over Ellsworth right now, or just north of Ellsworth. So heads up on that. Some hailstones probably falling out of the storm as we speak. And even up towards I-76, we're probably still, even up here, closer to 76, there's probably still some hailstones falling out of this storm a little bit just south of Lordstown, coming towards the Austintown area and coming towards Route 11 and 46 here before too much longer. Again, hailstones maybe the size of quarters, maybe even a little larger coming out of the storm. The rotation itself is still looking pretty ragged, but we're going to switch radar sources here before too much longer over to the Pittsburgh radar, because this storm will get a little bit closer to that radar source as opposed to way up in Cleveland here in the next couple of minutes. Again, Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here with you this afternoon. We have Chris Serinelli with us this afternoon as well. We're keeping an eye on the severe weather threat. For those just joining us, we have a tornado warning in effect for Mahoning County until 5:30. A tornado watch is in effect for the entire area until 9 p.m. We are expecting the severe weather threat to be over before 9 p.m. in our viewing area, maybe as early as 6 or 7 in a lot of areas. We should be able to start to be in the wind down phase at that point. But right now the watch does run until 9. The warning that is in effect for just Mahoning County is in effect until 5:30 this afternoon. We'll go back to the reflectivity data here, or the traditional radar. We've been showing you where the hail core is coming across. And here's a look at the reflectivity. It's raining cats and dogs, and hail is falling out of the storm around Ellsworth right now. And coming to the east, heads up Austintown to Canfield. You're next, and everywhere in between. You're next for a doozy of a storm. And anyone traveling up and down Route 11 or Route 46, in a few minutes, maybe a good idea to pull over. The Ohio Turnpike along I-76 is getting slammed, and it's about to get worse with the hailstones and the heavy rain pushing through. So heads up for people in those vicinities. Real quick detour back up to Trumbull just to check on this northwestern Trumbull storm. really raining hard, and very slight rotation perhaps near Route 45 right now. So Bloomfield, Bristol area, and probably some small hail falling out of this as well. Right near the intersection of 88 and 45. So right in here, probably some small hail. But I don't think they're likely to issue a tornado warning for this in the next handful of minutes. But northwestern Trumbull County getting a pretty good thunderstorm right now. And that storm, I'll just give you a quick loop, is moving off to the east. And let's see, looks like it's going to kind of hug the 87 corridor and impact Mecca, the northern tier of Mosquito Lake, and parts of this may be trying to bend a little more down to the right or to the south, so might have to watch this pretty carefully coming into the Cortland and Bezetta areas here and near the fairgrounds before too much longer.
Pretty good look, Eric, as we get back to the Boardman camera if we can. Camera 1 is giving us a little bit clearer picture of what the structure here is looking like. You can see the clouds starting to move a little bit faster. You can see where that inflow that you mentioned is coming in from the right. And you can see that clearing area on the right side of the screen there. It looks like it may be, correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit of a rear flank downdraft trying to happen.
Yeah, it may very well be. You know, we're still pretty far away from this, and we don't have a real clear view of the horizon, obviously, with some trees and some small hills in the way here. But yeah, very interesting structure to this. And as this gets a little bit closer to Boardman, we'll see how this picture changes. It's nice to have this camera in the Boardman area. And as Chris mentioned, it's also very nice to see this billboard displaying the warning information occasionally near McDonald's here along 224 in Boardman. We'll go back to our radar and bring up the wind data again. When we talk about radar indicated tornadoes, that's because radar data is capable of showing not only the wind speed, but the wind direction as well. And when we see what we call a couplet, the wind's blowing away from the radar and towards the radar in close proximity, that's oftentimes what we call a couplet, and it's indicative of rotation within a thunderstorm. Right now, again, a little bit ragged, but still close to Ellsworth is where most of that rotation is. In the next couple of minutes, we'll switch to the Pittsburgh data to maybe get a little bit of a better look at, at the velocity data, because we'll be getting a little bit closer to that Pittsburgh radar source as opposed to Cleveland. But this has been cycling over the last hour. Occasionally the radar or the velocity data has shown a pretty tight couplet. Occasionally it's been a little more ragged. Right now, a couple of scans have shown a fairly ragged signature, but we've seen a lot of pictures and video now of pretty good, supercell structure to this storm, something we don't see very often around here. Thanks to everyone who's sending us pictures and video, especially Tyler Berry out in western Mahoning County. He's been tracking this and sending us the pictures and video showing a pretty healthy looking supercell thunderstorm moving across the Route 224 corridor right now. And actually what I'm going to do now is switch over to the Pittsburgh radar data to see if we get a better look at this. All right, so the colors are going to switch now because we're pulling from the Pittsburgh radar site now. And so the green colors are winds blowing towards the radar site in Pittsburgh. The red colors are blowing away. We still have that couplet that doesn't look super impressive, but still is present almost right along 224 right now. There it is, Ellsworth area, 224. Palmyra Road, over here's Turner Road. This is, of course, the Ohio Turnpike. And so again, what we want everyone to take away from what we're saying here is you need to be in your safe place. If you're watching us from Ellsworth to Canfield, even up to Austintown, be in your safe place. Lowest level of your home, interior room, away from the windows. Put as many walls between you and the outdoors as you can. If you're watching us from closer to Youngstown, and especially east of Youngstown, over into eastern Mahoning County, yes, you're under a tornado warning until 5:30. However, the rotation is far enough to your west right now that you don't have to go to your basement just yet, but stand by. We may tell you that here before too much longer. Mobile home residents. This is not a situation you want to be in a mobile home. Find a site-built structure if you can. A gas station, a grocery store, something that is site-built that is going to be a safer place to you if you're in danger from this storm. If you're near the 224 corridor out here in western Mahoning County or downstream in central and eastern Mahoning County, If you're in a mobile home, you got to get out of that mobile home. And hopefully if you're watching us from out here right now, you've already done so, because a mobile home is not a safe place to be in a situation like this where we have a tornado warning. But here's our couplet, here's our rotation right here, now just east of Route 45. And here's a fresh scan just came in, so it's just edging a little farther to the east right now, kind of right near 224 or just north of 224. It's probably right here near North Palmyra Road. And so if you're watching from anywhere in Canfield, anywhere near Canfield, safe location. Austintown area, especially just south of Austintown, find your safe location. If you're watching from just north of Austintown, looks like you're going to miss out on the rotation with this. But the closer you are to Austintown, the better we'll feel if you find your safe place here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. That'd be a good idea.
Just got a text, Eric, from our very own meteorologist, Andrew DiPaolo. He's in the Canfield area reporting some small hail and some very loud thunder and lightning. So obviously the most intense part of that storm working its way through that area too.
Yep. And yeah, Andrew's right in the bullseye of the hail core here, and maybe very near where the rotation signature is as well. This storm has had a history of producing some pretty big hailstones, especially out into Portage County. Now, the last few scans have not been quite as impressive with the hail core, but yeah, some hailstones and lots of lightning and thunder with this. The Weather Service noting that the tornadic rotation is just west of Canfield right now, along 224.
And on our Boardman camera, we're starting to see some heavy rain falling there. We're starting to see, some lowering of the cloud base there on the north side of 224. Not much happening on the south side of it, but as we look at that picture there we can see, So if there is rotation there, if there is the potential for something to develop and be produced from that portion of the storm, that's where it would be.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like we just got a new severe thunderstorm warning issuance, parts of Trumbull. So let's peek in on that real quickly, then we'll get back to Mahoning County. This is going to be for that northern Trumbull segment that no doubt has some hail with it, some frequent lightning. It's been flirting with trying to have a little rotation with it, but that right now doesn't look all that impressive. But certainly some very heavy rain and probably some hailstones falling out of this. So heads up in Cortland, Mecca, and up towards Kinsman as well, and over towards the state line. New severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 5:15 for those areas. We'll go back to Mahoning County. And this is where our tornado warning is in effect until 5:30. Now, we're no longer in the warning polygon in the western part of Mahoning County. So you're in the clear from this tornado warning once you go west of Ellsworth, closer to the Portage line, closer to the Stark line. No tornado warning anymore out there. But we still have the tornado warning in effect until 5:30 for the Canfield area, for Austintown, for Youngstown, Boardman, Coatesville, Louisville, Camel, places like that, all the way to the state line. If you're watching us from near the state line in Mahoning County, you have a little bit of time, but not much. We're going to tell you to seek shelter here momentarily east of 680.
Can you roll on Cam 6
in
for me,
eastern
please?
parts of Mahoning County. Once you are west of 680, now's the time. We want you to seek shelter. If you're watching this from anywhere in Canfield and Austintown on east over towards Boardman into the Youngstown area, find your safe location. The rotation itself is pretty close to 224, so the closer you are to 224, the more danger, if you will, you are in from this rotating thunderstorm. We haven't seen any evidence just yet that it is actually producing a tornado. It is been producing a wall cloud and a pretty ominous scene here approaching the Boardman area, but we haven't seen any evidence, pictorial or video or reports from anyone that there's actually a tornado on the ground. But that could change at any moment. So we want you to treat this seriously. This is an ominous-looking thunderstorm approaching from the west with a supercell kind of structure to it, something that we don't often see in our part of the country with a great deal of frequency. Our other active camera right now is our transmitter tower on the south side of Youngstown. You can see the reduction in visibility now. We're looking west here, and you can see the reduction in visibility as this rain pushes in. It looks like, for the time being, the true rotation that has prompted the tornado warning is likely to be closer to 224 than closer to I-80 and I-76. So let's go over to the Pittsburgh wind data.
Very, very impressive structure with this as it moves through the Boardman Canfield area right now. I know we just looked at the camera a few seconds ago, but very imposing picture there for us, looking west down 224.
We'll get back to that camera in just a moment, but just real quickly where the rotation is. This is very close to 224 right now and just coming into the Canfield area. So there's a fresh scan right there. It's right over the heart of Canfield. So our rotation is right about here. So right in the heart of Canfield. There's 46, there's 224, Village Green, here's Route 11, and the Ohio Turnpike. Anyone in this vicinity and just to the east of this, we need you to be in your safe location right now. This includes anyone near Raccoon Road, Tippecanoe, places like that.
And the National Weather Service in Cleveland a few moments ago advising folks in and around Canfield to take cover.
Yeah. Again, we don't have a confirmation of a tornado on the ground, but this is a pretty healthy rotation signature and a very impressive looking structure to this storm, as Chris mentioned a moment ago. We'll go back to our Boardman camera, and here we go. Here's the leading edge of our storm. Can we zoom out at all on that, or are we zoomed out as we can get on that, Chris?
Yeah, let's zoom out just a little bit here. There we go.
Yeah, I'll step out of the way here. And
wow.
Yeah, that's not something you see very often around here. That is a supercell thunderstorm with a tilted updraft. And more than likely, this is a wall cloud right here. And out of this could drop a tornado at any point. But this is where our rotation is. Again, I just showed you the radar. It's right along 224, just to the west of Boardman, closer to Canfield. So the rotation is right out in here right now, right on the horizon. It's coming right down 224. So we're going to watch this all the way into Boardman, it looks like. And so this is a structure you don't see often. And see kind of this green tint up here? Oftentimes when we see this, this is indicative of a hail-producing storm. Again, something we don't see much in our part of the country, but when you see this kind of coloration within a thunderstorm, sometimes that means that we're seeing some bending of the light, some refraction of the light hitting big hailstones within a storm. So really a true supercell thunderstorm. I haven't seen something this impressive as far as a cloud structure around here in quite some time, Chris. It's been a long time.
I honestly don't know that I ever have. I've been here for 5 years now, and I've been on air for tornado warnings and have chased during severe weather events, but this may be the most impressive looking structure, as you said, that I think I've ever seen around here.
Yeah, this is a lowering of the cloud base, a wall cloud. Out of a wall cloud can sometimes come a funnel cloud, which if a funnel cloud comes to the ground, that's the definition of a tornado. We don't have any evidence right now of a tornado on the ground, but a tornado warning is in effect for this area, including the Boardman area and back towards the Canfield area. And the rotation has been kind of hugging Route 224. It's right over the Canfield, almost right over the Village Green right now, pretty close to that anyway. And it continues to kind of hug 224.
And it may be going a little bit south of 224. It doesn't look like that as we look at the camera view, but now, as we get toward the Western Reserve Road area, it may be pulling one of those right turn moves that we see again with these textbook supercell storms. It looks like, and the National Weather Service polygon is right on here, where they drew it, and clearly we're prepared for this possibility.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. They are on this storm really well with their polygon this afternoon. Let's go back to the radar, and we'll go into Mahoning County. And here's where our rotation is. Here's where our wall cloud is. Our Boardman camera that we've been showing you is right here. The rotation is right about here, just to the west, along 224, and as Chris mentioned, this may be starting to bend a little more south of due east. So we'll do a quick 15 minutes loop on this. It's subtle. It's still pretty close to 224 as far as hugging that major route. So this is pretty close now to Kensington Golf Course, the Canfield Fairgrounds, of course, as well. This is Tippecanoe Road right here. We're heading into Mill Creek Park here before too much longer with this rotation. And we're going to be keeping a very sharp eye on our Boardman camera, which again is right in the heart of Boardman, 224 and Market Street, right here at this intersection. And we've been looking west with that camera back towards the Canfield area. So let's go back to that camera. we zoom back out on that, Chris?
You bet.
Our banner up here says Columbiana, but this, of course, is Boardman. Now we're starting to lose a little bit of what we can see because of the rain shaft. This is rain down here. So we're beginning to lose a little bit of our structure, but can we zoom back out a little bit more on that?
We are zoomed out as far as it goes.
That's as far as we can go? All right.
I will check our Youngstown camera and see if we can get a perspective to the south. Just hang on a second. And that is totally shrouded by rain clouds. We may have a new tornado warning here.
I think they just continued the tornado warning for Mahoning.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. And I'm going to, we got a video here from the 62 and Western Reserve area here. I'm trying to open that in our email, but we'll see if we're able to get that going here
Sure.
and see what that reveals for us.
In the meantime, I'll go back to the radar here. And just real quickly give you kind of a broad view before we hone back in on Mahoning County. A broad view of where we stand this afternoon as we come up to the 5 o'clock hour, the top of the hour here. On this Saturday, it's a mess on the radar this afternoon. We've got heavy rain now in Columbiana County, but sub-severe storms down there. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning now in northern and eastern parts of Trumbull County. And then off to the west, we still have some heavy weather, some severe weather in parts of north central Ohio, with a couple of warnings on some of that activity, including some flood warnings up near the lakeshore. In our TV viewing area, though, we have two warnings currently. One, the tornado warning in Mahoning County. The other, the severe thunderstorm warning up in Trumbull County. This severe thunderstorm warning runs until 5:15 this afternoon. We have some hail falling out of this storm near Johnston, Mecca, heading down towards Fowler in the Cortland area as well. This is just north of the Youngstown-Warren Airport. This is coming to the east-southeast, so heads up along Route 7, Hartford area, Yankee Lake, and eventually crossing the state line over into Mercer County as we go deeper into the 5 o'clock hour. Going back down to Mahoning County, where our tornado warning is out until the bottom of the hour at 5:30. They've been trimming away areas from this warning that are no longer threatened. So we're no longer in the tornado warning out towards Ellsworth. And basically, we're going to be in the clear here momentarily in the Canfield area, but it's right on top of us now in the Boardman area. The rotation right near 224 in the Boardman area. Looks like the rotation is going to stay mostly south of Youngstown, so most of downtown Youngstown no longer in the warning polygon, especially once you head off to the south of the core of downtown Youngstown. But some hailstones and heavy rain and rotation near the Boardman area right now, so I'm going to go back over to that Boardman camera. And the visibility is dropping as we speak.
It is, and have been watching the horizon, for any kind of power flashes or indication of what may be happening in the low levels and on the ground. Fortunately, have not seen those as yet, but it's going to be harder for us, as you said. As I look, I can actually see some sheets of rain being blown across the parking lot there in the Walgreens. So obviously, even if there is no tornado potential there is some very gusty winds, and again, the low visibility. And now the camera is starting to shake as well. So we're getting some of those gusty winds.
We're rocking and rolling here. We're about to lose the visibility here in Boardman because it's just going to be almost zero here momentarily as these downpours push in. We have new severe thunderstorm warnings, but to our south, south of Columbiana County. A lot of this heavy activity in Columbiana County right now is sub-severe. We're finally getting in on some of the action down there as far as thunderstorm activity, but as I bring the radar up, we're going to see that it is fairly garden variety down in Columbiana County right now. It's heavy, and there's lightning and thunder, but we don't have much of a severe weather threat for the time being. The warning polygon as far as a severe thunderstorm warning is to the south and west of Columbiana County. This includes a tornado warning, and look at all that lightning. This is now east of New Philly. I'll actually take off the lightning so we can see exactly where we are here. Bowerston, heading up towards Sherrodsville. This is near the Atwood Lake area, out across Route 39 corridor. But this is going to miss Columbiana County. The core of this misses Columbiana County to the south and to the west as far as the warning or the warned part of this. Tornado warning in effect until the bottom of the hour, 5:30, for now roughly the eastern half of Mahoning County. We just got a fresh scan of the radar. The core of this is now Boardman over to Poland, up to the south side of Youngstown, and just south of 224 as well. The rotation has been taking a ride along 224 now for a little bit of time. It becomes a little bit hard to see on our Boardman camera now the structure of this storm because of the reduction in visibility because of the rain. And we're going to get a new severe thunderstorm warning downwind of this now. They opted for a severe thunderstorm warning and not a tornado warning in Lawrence County. So we have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning now until 6 p.m. This is for Lawrence County and includes all of the greater Newcastle area and a good chunk of Lawrence County, basically. So they did not issue a new tornado warning, but a severe thunderstorm warning. The reason for that, the rotation may be undergoing some weakening as it progresses through Mahoning County, but it's still, I don't think it's weakened much. To my eye, this is still pretty impressive rotation now, right near our camera, 224 and Market Street, and heading into the Poland area as well.
The presentation on the reflectivity is not quite that textbook hooking supercell that we were following for a while now. So maybe, we're getting into an area where the storm is going to cycle.
And that's something that these storms will do. They will cycle up and down. Certainly, we're going to load up that Boardman camera here again, even though I suspect we're just going to show a lot of rain.
Yeah.
Well, that's Youngstown. Is Boardman in camera 1? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's not much to show you here other than it's raining cats and dogs here in Boardman. But tornado warning is still in effect for this area. We can't pick out anything on the camera that shows you a tornado or any rotation at this point because we just have a rainy picture here, but this is about where the rotation is, or just east of this intersection. Maybe, Chris, we can pan that camera around and point it towards Poland now and see if we can see anything. Probably not, but...
Sure. Stand by 1 second.
Chris is going to maneuver this camera back in the other direction. We're now looking to the east. It'd be nice if we had windshield wipers on these cameras, right?
It really would. All right, here we are looking due east. Again, really hard to see here, but there's the Southern Park Mall on the very right of your screen, the entrance there. And then looking due east, of course, the sky dark and the very heavy rain falling there.
Yeah. So that's about where the heart of our storm is right now, and we'll go back to our radar. The warning runs until the bottom of the hour here at 5:30 for the eastern part of Mahoning County. This still includes the Boardman area, but we'll give you the all clear in Boardman here in a few minutes. We want you to stay in your safe location for a few minutes. Anyone in and around the Boardman area, be in your safe location now in the Poland area, Struthers as well, heading out towards Camel and especially just south of Camel. Again, the closer you are to 224, the closer you are to the core of the rotation that we've been following. But there's hailstones falling out of this in many locations now around 680 and east over towards the Poland area, and eventually this is coming towards the state line here as we head towards 5:15 to 5:30 this evening. If you're watching from where the warning was out earlier in central and western Mahoning County, you're in the all clear from this storm. In Ellsworth and Canfield, you're in the all clear now. It looks like this is pushed far enough to the east that we can give you the all clear there. Now, we can't give you the all clear for the entire evening just yet because we still have some activity off to our west, and occasionally there's been a couple of warnings on some of this activity out in parts of northwest Ohio. A lot of it is behaving itself right now. A lot of this is sub-severe right now. There's no current warnings on any of this activity back towards Mansfield and up towards Cleveland. So we kind of suspect that once we get through this 5 o'clock hour and a lot of this activity pushes out of the area, we may be able to give you the all clear at that point for the entire evening as far as severe weather goes. There may be a renegade shower or storm lingering for a little while this evening, but the true severe weather risk might very well be over once we lose kind of this main batch of activity that's been pushing through as we speak, and we'll push through for the rest of the 5 o'clock hour. We'll make that call as we get closer to the top of the hour and our 6 o'clock newscast. Just a reminder for our 6 o'clock newscast, if we do have any active tornado warnings at the top of the hour at 6 o'clock, we'll continue with the live television coverage of the weather. If we don't, then we'll have our regularly scheduled newscast at the top of the hour at 6, and we'll continue streaming online as needed for the rest of the evening. Tornado warning missing us to the south and west. One of the tornado warnings anyway, that's down into southwestern Carroll County. This moved through New Philadelphia earlier on. It's impacting parts of Carroll County around Atwood Lake right now, but that is not a problem for our television viewing area. What is a problem right now, 2 different warnings, well actually 3. The first one, a tornado warning for eastern Mahoning County. Associated with that same cell is this warning, this severe thunderstorm warning for a good chunk of Lawrence County. Now, this does not include Grove City to Slippery Rock, but just south of there, including all of the greater Newcastle area and parts of the New Wilmington area as well, and parts of the Pulaski area as well, and back to the state line. Now, it becomes a tornado warning in Mahoning County. The Weather Service office in Pittsburgh covers Lawrence County, and they issued a severe thunderstorm warning and not a tornado warning. Now, that being said, we're going to keep an eye as this circulation approaches the state line. We're going to keep an eye on the trends here. The circulation itself right now is right about here. Now, this again is kind of ragged. It's not real tight, and we've had no confirmation of a tornado on the ground. That's important to say. We've had no spotters. We've had no video, pictures, calls, reports, anything of an actual tornado on the ground. But we've had a pretty consistent rotation signature, and we've seen a lot of visual evidence of a supercell structure to this storm. But the rotation itself has yet to produce an actual tornado to the best of our knowledge. But here's the rotation right now, right along 224 in the Poland area. As this approaches the state line, if it were to hold together enough, the Pittsburgh Weather Service office might have to go ahead and make that severe thunderstorm warning a tornado warning. It remains to be seen, though, if that will be the case. For the time being, we need you to be in your safe place in the Poland area and everywhere around Poland up to Struthers and heading over towards the state line as well. Safe location away from the windows, lowest floor of your home. That is the place to be.
Eric, two quick items here. We're going to send a crew to the area of South Turner Road in Canfield on a report of a tree on a house. We're going to see if that verifies, but there are at least one or two damage reports starting to come in from that area, so we're going to investigate that. And looking at this storm in Mahoning County on the Pittsburgh radar here on the reflectivity mode, looks like it's kind of trying to get that classic structure going again. So I'm sure the Weather Service in Pittsburgh has a very close eye on that. But, you know, we were just talking 10, 15 minutes ago about the cycling, and, you know, it appears that this may be trying to get that classic hook echo shape going again.
Yes, indeed. And that's a good point, Chris. As this approaches the state line, it's been cycling up and down, and the last couple of scans, just north of New Middletown up towards 224, we're starting to get a little bit of a signature back with this from the reflectivity data. At the very least, though, hook signature or not, we've got a torrential downpour with hailstones falling out of this, coming into the state line area right now around Louisville, heading down towards New Middletown, 317, 170, and of course Route 422 as well, and 224 in addition to that. This is going to cross the state line here in a few minutes, and then we'll see what the National Weather Service does from here on out as this encounters a new area of jurisdiction for the National Weather Service office. The Pittsburgh office covers Lawrence County, the Cleveland office covers Mahoning County, and so this is just about to cover or across the state line. And we should mention that there is a new severe thunderstorm warning up in Mercer County from the same storm that prompted the warning in Trumbull County a little while ago. We'll show you that one. Here's the warning polygon up in Mercer County. So we're under a severe thunderstorm warning until 5:45 for a good chunk of Mercer County. This is 85% maybe of the county, basically I-80 and northward, including all of the major cities, most of them anyway, in Mercer County. This storm has not been as impressive looking as far as rotation signatures, but we're going to keep an eye on that because it's been trying to flirt occasionally with having a couplet that bears watching. But at the very least, a little bit of hail near the state line right now, near the Trumbull-Mercer line, a little bit of hail, and some hard downpours as well. So that severe thunderstorm warning just issued a few moments ago runs until 5:45 for a good chunk of Mercer County. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the only reports that we've gotten so far of that tree down in Mahoning County? That's the only damage report we've gotten?
So far.
Yeah. So far, that is the only damage report we've gotten, and we're going to send a crew out there to take a look at what happened there, but potentially some tree damage and some structural damage in parts of Mahoning County. But this storm is getting set to cross the state line, and as it does so, the Cleveland Weather Service office will discontinue the tornado warning for Mahoning County when it crosses the state line over into Lawrence County. We're going to keep an eye on that as it crosses the state line. Also crossing the state line is this cell up in Trumbull County into Mercer County. This has some hailstones, South Pymatooning, coming out of Hartsford. and some strong winds as well. And while the rotation signature with this is pretty weak and not as impressive as what's been going on in Mahoning County, it's still every now and then is showing me a scan that makes me perk up a little bit, that gives me pause, if you will. We're going to have to pay attention to that one for a little while longer as it moves through Mercer County.
Eric, starting to get some small power outage numbers, about 200 throughout Trumbull and Mahoning. Most of those are in Liberty, Mecca, and Austintown.
Okay.
And I would suspect that we'll probably see that number go up in the next hour or two.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. So Chris mentioning the power outage numbers. I haven't looked at the official observation at the airport in a while. Let me bring that up real quickly here. We've not had a gust at the airport, a meaningful gust. In fact, the wind has been calm for a little while at the Youngstown Warren Airport. So where we get our official observations, we have not seen anything crazy just yet in terms of wind gusts up there. All right, so our tornado-warned storm is right over the state line right now. We're getting hailstones right over the state line, and we're in the clear now in Boardman. We can give you the all clear in Boardman. We can give you the all clear in Poland right now as well. But New Middletown, hang in there for a few minutes. This is right over the state line right now. And I mentioned Poland giving you the all clear. Let's wait a couple minutes. Now that I zoom in a little bit closer, let's wait a couple of minutes around Poland and Struthers. All right, so new tornado warning, Carroll, Harrison, Jefferson counties. That's going to be a miss for us. And so that one is to our south. A little bit surprised that we have not seen a tornado warning for Lawrence. To me, this signature is still strong enough that it's a little gutsy to just issue a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag when you have rotation that just is still just enough that I don't know if I'd be confident enough to not go with a tornado warning. But here's where the rotation is right now. So this is, again, right near the state line, which is right here. This is 224. Here's Lowellville. New Middletown down here. Here's 630, 317 over into Pennsylvania. Bessemer right here. This is coming across the state line in the next couple of minutes. All clear, Boardman, Youngstown on west for this particular storm anyway. But heads up in Lawrence County, this is coming your way. And I want to show you what's going on to our west. We have no warnings upstream right now, but there still are some pretty mean thunderstorms to be had across parts of northern Ohio. Out here. So this activity is still activity we still are going to have to contend with at some point in parts of our area before the early evening hours are through. We'll put a loop on this. So none of this has a warning on it right now. All this activity back towards Mansfield and back towards Dover, New Philly, Akron, Canton. But all of it's going to bear watching to see if we have any cycling up and down. But for the time being, this is heavy thunderstorm activity that is sub-severe, but we'll keep an eye on it for the next couple of hours. Our warned storms are now primarily in western PA. So let's go back to our warning display here and show you where we stand. The warning for Mahoning County will be discontinued here momentarily as this crosses the state line. Its original expiration time was at the bottom of the hour at 5:30. We're going to allow this, or we're going to expire this early, it looks like, by a handful of minutes in the extreme west or eastern parts of Mahoning County. You're no longer in the warning in Canfield and Ellsworth and places like that. Youngstown, no longer in the warning. This is primarily now right along the state line and heading into Lawrence County. So we'll be able to give you the all clear from this storm completely in Mahoning County here momentarily.
Eric, we've got some scud going on here as we're looking off to the east-southeast. This is from our camera in Boardman, kind of looking at the backside of that storm now that the picture is cleared out here. You know, some classic scary-looking clouds, but it's hard to deduce exactly, you know, the extent of the lowering of that cloud base, but certainly an imposing picture. You can see some of that inflow going in there, the rapid vertical movement of those clouds. So still a real turbulent picture there.
Yes, indeed. Sometimes, you know, when we have a very humid air mass in place like we have right now, the cloud bases can be low to the ground because the air gets really saturated, very low, very close to the ground when you have dew points this high. And sometimes, you know, we'll get pictures and video of clouds that look like this, and people do think that they are ominous. They think that they're wall clouds, they're funnel clouds, things like that. We oftentimes jokingly refer to them as scary-looking clouds, SLCs. The technical term for a lot of this is SCUD, yes, SCUD. It's something that we see frequently in thunderstorm situations. The Weather Service office in Cleveland mentioning that they're going to let the Mahoning County warning go here momentarily. So its original expiration was at the bottom of the hour, and it's now 5:18, 5:19. They're going to let this go here momentarily, this tornado warning, which has been in effect now for a while in parts of Mahoning County. It looks like, do we have a flood advisory now for Mahoning as well? It looks like...
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So real quickly, we won't focus much on this, but a flood advisory is out now for parts of Mahoning County where the storm has been tracking across. Some heavy rain, and we've seen, no doubt, some ponding on roadways and some flooding in low-lying areas and that sort of thing. So a flood advisory out for Mahoning County. A flood watch still in effect for many of the counties that the Pittsburgh Weather Service office covers, including Columbiana and Lawrence. For our TV viewers, we will get off the air here momentarily once our tornado warning for Mahoning is officially discontinued. But we can pretty much give you the all clear in most of Mahoning County right now, unless you're very, very close to the state line. Within a couple of miles of the state line, we still want you to be sheltered if you're in one of those locations. But if you're back towards Poland, and certainly once you're back towards Boardman, Youngstown, Canfield, you're in the clear for this tornado warning. We can't give you the all clear entirely for the evening just yet, but we may hear before too much longer. So, okay, there we go. Tornado warning has been allowed to expire in Mahoning County. So for our TV audience, we'll get you back to regular programming. We will break in as needed this evening if any more tornado warnings are issued for our area. But for now, we'll get you back to regularly scheduled programming on WFMJ and WBCB. Okay. All right, we are back on the stream now, and as far as our streaming audience, we're going to continue streaming for maybe 10 minutes or so more as conditions warrant, and then we'll stop the stream and get ready for our 6 o'clock newscast. Again, if we have any more tornado warnings, we'll get back on the television side of things. But for the streaming audience, just know that we're going to hang in there for a few minutes longer and keep an eye on this activity in western PA as it moves through Mercer County and Lawrence County, and then hopefully we'll be able to take a little bit of a break, get ready for the 6 o'clock newscast, and at that point we should have a better idea as to whether the severe weather risk is going to continue at all beyond the 6 o'clock hour or not. As I mentioned, most of this activity off in north central Ohio has been warning free. There's only occasionally been a warning or two. Right now, looks like we have one polygon now with this section of it back towards the Mansfield, Ashland, and Worcester area. We still have a warning polygon east of New Philly with that circulation down there. Back in our viewing area, we have garden variety activity now in all of our Ohio counties, with two heavier cells now in western PA. One has this severe thunderstorm warning on it in Mercer County. This has a tornado warning, or a tornado possible, I should say, tag on it, and we're probably seeing some hailstones within this as it comes across Mercer County. So heads up Fredonia, Cool Spring, Mercer. This is now east of the state line, east of Sharon. This is a pretty heavy storm, and I'll quickly check in on the velocity data, the wind data. Just a little bit of a couplet, perhaps. I'm not real impressed by that, but we'll keep an eye on it as it moves through Mercer County.
And Eric, in the meantime, another report that we're going to check out of Poland from the North Main Street and Johnston Place area. A tree may be blocking the road in that area.
Okay. Thank you for that, Chris. The other warning that we have out is a severe thunderstorm warning now in Lawrence with a tornado possible tag on it. This is the rotation we've been tracking across Mahoning County for the last hour or so. Right now, the rotation is very broad. I don't think this is something that is likely to produce a tornado anytime real soon, but we're going to babysit it, if you will, as it moves across Lawrence County. So heads up right here, 551, 108. Here's North Beaver, Oakwood, the greater Newcastle area. Heads up. We're not going to tell you to seek shelter from this right now, but keep a close eye on this with us as we go over the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. Going to check in real quickly on northwestern Trumbull, as a pretty hefty storm has moved back into that area. Nothing too tremendous on the velocity data in northwestern Trumbull, but we are getting some heavy rain, no doubt, and some frequent lightning. Bring you back to the radar here, and yeah, it's really coming down hard. Southington area, heading up towards Farmington, and across into Geauga and Portage counties as well. There's the latest scan on that. Let's zoom back out and give you kind of the broad overview of things. Take off the warning information. I'll step out of the way here and just show you the radar loop. This is where we stand as of 5:24. Locally, still some heavy thunderstorms pushing through, with a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings still in effect for a good chunk of Mercer and Lawrence counties. Heavier thunderstorms off to our west. We still think the overall severe weather threat is likely to wind down in our television viewing area as we go into the early evening. I think we'll be able to sound the all clear probably by 7 or 8 at the latest. I think we've still got the 5 and 6 o'clock hours to get through before we can confidently say that we're done with a severe weather risk this evening. Right now, we have a couple of warnings with some of this activity out in north central Ohio. That's the polygon we're talking about right here. Here's the Mansfield area. This warning polygon is out until 6:15. That's the only warning polygon on the activity that is out in that vicinity. All right, so we're going to get you to the bottom of the hour here at 5:30 on the stream, and then if we don't have any new tornado warnings, we're going to take a pause and get ready to do a newscast at 6 p.m.
I'm going to check on this video we just got of some hail. Yeah, it looks like this is coming from Julie in Lake Milton. Let me get a closer look at that. There are some, I would say, this is larger than marble size. These are about quarter size hail.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how to get videos into the loop here if we can. What I am going to do is forward this to the newsroom. Hopefully we can get that cut and at least get that shared here. And I'll get that on my socials too as well. Chris WFMJ on Twitter, and I'll tag the Storm Tracker 21 account as well. We'll at least be able to do that because we can download those and get that up for you. So thanks to Julie for sending that in. Also, report of tree down and wires on fire. Again, this is also near the Poland area, South Main Street near Cortlandt Street. So some isolated reports of some damage there.
And thank you to everyone who's letting us know. You guys are our eyes and ears out there, letting us know what you're seeing. And unfortunately, if you're witnessing some damage and some problems, it's unfortunate that that is the case, but thank you for passing that along to us. We always appreciate that. It's very, very helpful to us. All right, so a couple more minutes here on the stream. Let's go back to our Western PA warnings before we leave you. First of all, down in Lawrence County, severe thunderstorm warning runs until 6 p.m. Now we've got a doozy of a storm pushing across Newcastle right now with a lot of lightning and thunder, some very, very heavy rain, and there's probably some hailstones still going on with this. The rotation has pretty much diminished at this point, so that was a good call on the Pittsburgh National Weather Service office's part, not continuing the tornado warning into Lawrence, because from my eye the rotation has pretty much diminished with this, but it's still producing some small hail and certainly some gusty winds and frequent lightning along with the very, very heavy rain. Let's check in one more time on Mercer County, where we have a severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect until 5:45 for a good chunk of the county. This is coming into Fredonia right now. And to my eye, just looking at some of the other products here, we don't have much of a rotation signature with this, and there might only be pea-sized hail with that. Not real impressed with the hail trends, but still a doozy of a thunderstorm. The Weather Service office in Pittsburgh noting that the low-level shear is increasing across eastern Ohio. So the tornado potential still is going to be there for eastern Ohio this evening. Now, Pittsburgh, the Weather Service office covers a large part of eastern Ohio that's not in our viewing area, but they may be concerned about the potential with a lot of this activity encountering that more favorable air mass as it comes eastward. It may be more of a problem for areas closer to the West Virginia Panhandle, down towards the I-70 corridor as well. But it is notable that the low-level wind shear, as opposed to the wind shear upstairs in the atmosphere a ways, is increasing a little bit this evening, and that may lead to more tornado warnings before the early evening hours are through across eastern Ohio, especially maybe in areas just to our south, closer to the I-70 corridor. So with that, we're going to close out the stream for now and get ready to do 21 News at 6 coming up. We hope you will join us at the top of the hour. We'll have a recap of what we have seen this afternoon, what we know, and what you can expect going forward this evening into the overnight as well. And we'll break down another perhaps risk for showers and thunderstorms coming our way on Monday this evening on 21 News at 6. After the newscast, or perhaps even during the newscast as conditions warrant, we will get back on television if any new tornado warnings are issued, and we may relaunch a live stream after the 6 o'clock newscast if it looks like we're going to have additional warnings going forward as a lot as this activity comes eastward across the state. But in the meantime, thank you for watching us on this live streaming coverage on WFMJ.com, the Storm Tracker 21 app, and our social media as well this afternoon. Have a great rest of your evening.